A young man takes a determined step forward, his sneaker hitting the pavement with purpose. He breaks into a run, rushing down the city sidewalk with a clear destination in mind. This is Juan Gong, whose name means protagonist, a fate his parents wished for him. As he bursts into a shop, his friends greet him warmly, announcing his arrival. He explains that he was often teased for his name, but never cared because he genuinely wants to be a hero. Gong asks if the game is in stock, and his friend confirms he set a copy aside for him. It's the remake of a famous game called Night Saga, now re-released as Night Saga RE. The game tells a story of the great conflict unfolding between the human and demon races. Players can choose to play as the human hero, Roke, a warrior in shining armor, or they can side with the demons in their dark, fiery realm, surrounded by powerful allies. The other option is to play as Zephyr Ragnaros, the Demon King's second son. Gong has cleared the original game over 10 times, knowing every character, item, and event. This new version is even more exciting because it's the first one released for virtual reality. Back at home, he heads straight for his advanced VR gaming chair. He carefully holds the small game cartridge, ready to insert it into the machine. The young man then places the sleek VR helmet over his head, settling into his seat. With his arms crossed, he sits confidently, fully prepared to dive into the game world. He plans to enjoy a light session for today, which for him means about 8 hours of play. As the system boots up, vibrant streams of digital light envelop him completely. He finds himself in a strange, sunlit room, wondering if he even logged in correctly, since this isn't the usual starting area. He stops talking, noticing his own reflection and the strange, pointy ears on his head. Looking at his new body, he sees a white-haired boy with red eyes and wonders who this character is. A hoarse voice suddenly calls from the door, sarcastically asking if the slacker is still asleep. An orc warrior then opens a curtain, demanding that he leave quickly because they have a morning schedule. The young man is impressed by the realistic graphics, but his comment only leaves the orc confused. He realizes he can interact and talk to the characters, a feature that was never announced. He nervously asks the orc's name, but the warrior seems uncomfortable with the question. The orc asks if he forgot about him, Karak, and then tells him to hurry, as everyone is waiting for Prince Shutra. 29. Gong freezes, realizing it must be Shutra Ignis, the 9th son of the Demon King, even though he's never chosen a character. Remembering the game's controls, he raises his hand, intending to open his status window. A holographic screen immediately appears, confirming that the command worked as expected. The window shows that his name is Shutra Ignis, and all his stats are a pitiful 5 points, lower than those of a normal NPC. After seeing his poor stats, he decides to check what skills he has. The screen displays 2 skills, Conquest, and something called Protagonist bonus. He stares at the name in disbelief, wondering if this is the protagonist bonus he knows. Karak pokes his head around the curtain again, yelling at him to hurry, and Shutra quickly agrees. He steps out from behind the curtain, following the impatient orc warrior outside. But as he steps out into the daylight, he stops, shocked by the sight before him. An army of orc soldiers is gathered in formation, looking ready for a great battle. He asks Karak why they are on a battlefield, but the orc tells him to stop and not waste time, as they have to deal with the Red Lightning guys. Karak cheers that it's his first deployment, but Shutra panics, asking what happened to the tutorial. He realizes they are going up against the rebellious Red Lightning orc tribe who have already raised their army. His mission, alongside the 7th prince and 8th princess, is to suppress this very rebellion. He questions why they only brought 10 men for his first battle, but Karak clarifies it's just a recon mission. The orc then asks if he ate something strange, pointing out his weird behavior, but the prince just stares back. Ignoring the comment, the young prince raises his hand to summon another game interface. A holographic minimap appears before him, which he plans to keep active to help navigate. He immediately notices a hidden path marked on the map and wonders if it's a secret event. Meanwhile, Karak studies a physical map, concluding that their current route will take far too long. Shutra confidently tells his companion to follow him, claiming he knows a much faster shortcut. Though skeptical, the orc squad follows their young prince through the dense, unfamiliar woods. The so-called shortcut turns out to be a perilous climb up a steep and treacherous cliff face. The intense physical effort leaves Shutra sweating and struggling to catch his breath. After the difficult climb, the group arrives at a massive ancient stone door set into the mountainside. The door is adorned with heavy ornate ring handles, showing it has been sealed for a long time. Karak is amazed, asking how he found this place and if he's secretly a mage, but Shutra dismisses the idea. Seeing how exhausted the prince is, Karak asks if he's okay, and Shutra laments his low-level 1 stamina. He tells them to wait as he steps forward onto a glowing sigil on the ground right in front of the door. The moment he steps on the sigil, golden flames erupt from the ground, swirling around him. The sudden surge of power catches him completely off guard, leaving him stunned and confused. As the energy envelops him, a notification appears, announcing that he has successfully leveled up. He stares at his interface in disbelief, wondering how he could have leveled up just by walking. His status screen confirms that all his stats have increased by 2 points, and he has gained 2 skill points, making him realize how powerful his bonus is. A small smile forms on his face as he understands the true potential of his unique perk. Karak pulls him from his thoughts, urging him to move quickly, and the prince agrees to follow. He feels confident about what awaits him, knowing he is not alone, and that he has trusted allies by his side. Most importantly, he realizes that his protagonist bonus means that even a disaster can turn into a great opportunity. The group advances into the dark cave, whose jagged, icy walls hint at the dangers that await. Karak comments that the tunnel appears to have been dug by dwarves, who, he claims, lived in the demonic realm long ago. As they venture deeper, the orc warrior suddenly stops, his eyes wide with surprise at the discovery. The entire squad explodes with excitement upon finding a hidden treasure trove of abandoned dwarven weapons. While the orcs celebrate the discovery, Shutra remains calm, observing the treasure with a thoughtful expression. He attempts to pick up a powerful-looking sword, but is blocked by system messages informing him that his level and attributes are too low. Undeterred by the restrictions, he decides the best option is to save the items for later. He simply points at a weapon and thinks the command to put it away in his inventory. As he expected, the item disappears and appears in his inventory slot, confirming that the system works intuitively. However, upon checking his minimap again, he notices several red enemy dots suddenly appear. Realizing that the dots represent approaching enemies, he quickly shouts for everyone to retreat immediately. Before the orcs can react, a strange, glowing red crystal materializes between 2 of them and begins to crack. The crystal then explodes violently, releasing a powerful shockwave of pink energy that sends the soldiers flying. From the smoke and debris, a red-skinned warrior steps forward, his tribe emerging from the shadows. He is Keichan, the Red Lightning tribe's commander, and he taunts them for falling into his trap. Without another word, the enemy leader gives the order for his soldiers to charge and eliminate everyone. The 2 orc tribes clash violently in the narrow cave, the sound of battle echoing off the walls. Karak fights fiercely on the front lines, defending his men against the overwhelming enemy forces. Shutra stands frozen in the middle of the battle, clutching a sword as one of his soldiers falls nearby. He knows he has to do something, and considers trying to land a last hit on a foe to gain some easy EXP. Seeing a red orc distracted while fighting one of his allies, the young prince sees his chance. He rushes forward and swings the cheap sword with all his strength, aiming for a decisive blow, but the weapon shatters harmlessly against the enemy's tough hide, leaving the prince stunned. The red warrior turns around slowly, its eyes glowing with fury as it focuses on its small attacker. It lets out a terrifying roar and lunges toward him, causing Shutra to scream in absolute panic. The enemy stomps the ground with incredible force, cracking the stone as it charges forward. A single powerful punch connects with the prince, sending him flying backward through the air. His health plummets to a critical 1 point, and he stares at the notification in sheer terror. The enraged orc looms over him, ready to land the finishing strike and end the fight. He shuts his eyes and lets out a final scream, bracing himself for the inevitable end. But just then, Karak leaps in front of the prince, absorbing the fatal blow himself to protect him. The loyal warrior turns and shouts for his highness to escape immediately while he still can. Shutra stares at his own trembling hands, trying to convince himself that this is only a game. He decides he's had enough for one day and tries to open the menu, complaining about how hyper-realistic the game is. The prince looks on with a flushed, confused expression, trying to process the grim situation around him. He checks his skills again, but the window now shows none available, erasing the buffs he saw earlier. His eyes widen in shock and disbelief, a bead of sweat running down his temple as the truth sinks in. He scrolls through the menu options in a panic, realizing with horror that there is no log out button. As his allies continue to fight and fall around him, he sits on the ground, wondering if he is truly trapped in the game. His attention is drawn back to the battle as the enemy commander begins chanting and gathering magical energy. Kai-chan channels a powerful spell into his staff, a sinister grin on his face as pink energy crackles around him. He then leaps into the air and unleashes the full force of his magic directly down upon the helpless prince. Shutra looks up in terror, desperately thinking that he cannot allow himself to die in this place. The blast of destructive energy slams into him, the impact consuming him in a flash of pink light. He gasps for his last breath, his body going limp as his consciousness begins to fade away. The enemy commander stands triumphantly in the distance, having successfully eliminated his target. A system window appears in the darkness, confirming that the prince's health has dropped to 0. Instead of logging out, he finds himself standing alone in a vast, empty blue void. He looks around the strange space, completely bewildered as he recalls being attacked by the orc. A dreadful thought crosses his mind, and he wonders with pure terror if he has actually died. Suddenly, a brilliant golden light shines in the distance, drawing his attention away from his dark thoughts. A mysterious voice echoes through the void, telling him that he is the destiny of this place. A beautiful goddess-like figure emerges from the light, urging him to conquer, subjugate, and rule. The prince is left completely stunned by the mysterious woman's powerful declaration. He turns away from the blinding light as his consciousness is pulled back from the strange void. Back in the cavern, the fierce battle between the two rival orc tribes rages on without him. The Red Lightning tribe's superior numbers are quickly overwhelming Carrick's outnumbered forces. Their commander, Kai-chan, watches with arrogance as his warriors easily dominate the fight. He mocks the intruders for their foolishness, calling them either ignorant or just plain stupid. As he gives the order to finish them off, a brilliant golden light suddenly erupts in the cave. The commander stares in shock at the resurrected prince, questioning how he could have returned. Shutra now stands confidently amidst the chaos, his body enveloped in a powerful golden aura. A system notification appears before him, announcing he has acquired a new skill, psychokinesis. He stares at the message, completely baffled as to when or how he could have possibly learned it. A spark of realization flashes in his eyes as he understands something fundamental has changed. His status screen now displays a subclass he has never seen before called Knight of Conquest. The enemy commander roars in absolute fury, ordering his soldiers to kill the prince first. Carrick can only stare in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock upon seeing his leader alive and well. The sight of their resurrected prince inspires the green orcs, who rally to his side with renewed hope. They form a defensive wall around Shutra, ready to protect him from the charging enemy horde. The young prince clutches his broken sword hilt, his attention still glued to his status window. He reads the name Knight of Conquest, a class that he knows never existed in the original game. His eyes glow with intense focus as he questions the reason behind all these unexpected changes. He raises his broken fist, channeling his newfound energy as a spell instinctively comes to mind. His eyes glow with intense power as he feels the words resonate within him, as if he has known them for a long time. He releases the spell, declaring that the power of conquest is the true power of a king. A massive wave of golden energy erupts from him, enveloping his allies and empowering them. The system confirms the activation of his Under the King's Banner ability, empowering all allies in the area. Karak and the other green orcs roar with newfound strength, feeling the power coursing through their veins. Filled with incredible vigor, the reinvigorated soldiers advance to eliminate their enemies. The empowered orcs tear through the ranks of the Red Lightning tribe with unstoppable, overwhelming force. The battlefield shifts rapidly as Shutra's allies easily overwhelm their once dominant foes. The Red Orcs are completely stunned by their enemy's sudden, inexplicable surge in strength. Kai-chan can only stare in disbelief at the ridiculous turn of events unfolding before him. He watches his army being decimated, his eyes finally falling on the source of the chaos. The commander realizes that the young prince is responsible for turning the tide of the battle. In a last desperate effort, Kai-chan summons enormous magical crystals to attack Shutra directly. But Carrick intervenes, shattering the ground with a powerful punch and creating a smokescreen. The loyal warrior then lunges forward, propelled by the prince's psychokinesis ability. Shutra points his broken sword, directing his trusted ally like a homing missile toward the enemy leader. Kai-chan watches in terror as the powerful orc warrior flies directly toward him at incredible speed. The enemy leader tries to protest, but it is too late to react or defend himself from the attack. Karek's attack lands with devastating force, defeating the Red Lightning Tribe commander. With their leader gone, the remaining red orcs panic and flee, and Shutra orders his men to hunt them down. A notification appears explaining that a general's merit always belongs to their king. He is then bombarded with multiple level-up messages, a reward for his general's victory. The prince stares in confusion, wondering why his level suddenly increased so dramatically. Karek is also baffled, looking at his hands and questioning the source of his newfound power. The young prince turns to his loyal general, a new, confident smirk on his face. A flashback reveals a conversation where the prince's actions made the orc question his identity. Later that night, back at their camp, the victorious orcs celebrate their unexpected victory. Shutra, however, sits alone in his tent, frantically searching for a way to log out of the game. He tries to calm himself down, considering the two most likely possibilities for his situation. The first is that he's trapped in virtual reality due to a critical bug that might be fixed later. The second possibility, though it sounds crazy, seems increasingly more plausible to him. He might have been transported into a world that is either the game itself or one very similar to it. The realistic backgrounds, the NPCs he can actually converse with, everything points to this conclusion. He even checks himself for any signs of pixelation, finding none, which only reinforces his theory. The terrifying thought crosses his mind that if this is a real world, he might have to die to escape it. He quickly dismisses that idea, deciding it's far too risky to even consider trying. Karek's voice from outside snaps him out of his panic, asking if the prince has a moment to spare. The loyal general enters the tent, his face serious as he prepares to discuss something important. He informs the prince about a sudden duel, a topic that seems to have come out of nowhere. Karek explains that he needs to know his leader's skill with a sword, but Shutra questions the necessity. The general tosses him a wooden training sword, which the prince catches with a surprised look. Karek assures him not to worry, promising to go as easy on him as possible during their spar. Shutra scoffs at the orc's confidence, cheekily reminding him that he's talking to his prince. With a determined grin, he declares that if they're going to fight, they should do it properly. The orc warrior readies his own wooden sword, preparing to defend against his prince's charge. Shutra swings his sword at Karek's side, but his attack is clumsy and easily dodged. A humorous flashback shows the prince's previous self feebly attempting to learn swordsmanship. Another memory reveals him trying to break a rock with a stick, only for the stick to shatter. Back in the present, Karek effortlessly parries the prince's attack, sending him stumbling backward. The prince falls to the ground, complaining that the orc hit him too hard and too suddenly. A system notification then appears, announcing that he has successfully acquired basic swordsmanship. He stares at the message in complete disbelief, confused by this sudden and unexpected development. He wonders how and when he could have possibly learned the skill without any prior training. He then recalls the moment he learned psychokinesis, realizing he gained skills by experiencing attacks. Karek, seeing the prince on the ground, suggests they end the duel, but Shutra quickly objects. The prince stomps his foot on the ground, a confident and determined smirk on his face. He declares that he is just getting started, ready to put his newfound skill to the test. With a renewed sense of purpose, he charges forward, his movements now much more fluid and precise. He meets Karek's block with a powerful strike, a flash of light erupting as their swords clash. Karek is surprised by the prince's improved movements, wondering why he struggled so much at first. The young prince keeps up his assault, feeling confident in his newfound abilities and control. He continues to trade blows with the much larger and more experienced orc warrior. Shutra lands gracefully after an exchange, his stance now solid and his movements sharp. He smirks at his companion, pointing out that the fight has become much more manageable for him now. The prince then asks Karek what his current level is, and the orc recalls it being around 21. Shutra nonchalantly pulls up his own status window, a confident look on his face. He sees his own level is only 7, but boldly declares that he can catch up to the general in no time. He knows that unlike others in this world, he can easily check his level without any special spells. This gives him a huge advantage, as he can see his detailed stats and strengthen them with bonus points. He leaps into the air, launching another powerful attack against the surprised orc warrior. The two continue their spar, the prince's movements becoming more and more refined with each clash. He realizes that with his unique advantages, he can get stronger and surpass everyone else much faster. As they fight, he remembers the main plot of the Night Saga game, specifically the Demon Realm arc. The story follows the protagonist Zephyr as he defeats his rival siblings to become the new Demon King. The most crucial part of this arc is the Day of Slaughter event, which is mandatory for the story. This event is a major incident where Zephyr kills all his siblings to secure his own ambitions. Since he is one of the siblings, he is obviously on that list of targets to be eliminated. He checks the current date, realizing he still has 5 years until the fateful event takes place. With this knowledge, his top priority becomes preventing the event and getting stronger than Zephyr. Karak finds him in the forest, asking why he's there and if he's forgotten about the day's meeting. The orc seems annoyed that the prince has no recollection of the important gathering. He urges the young prince to hurry, explaining that everyone is already waiting for him to arrive. Shutra nervously laughs as he sits at the head of the table facing his 2 older siblings. He greets them awkwardly and they sit across from him, one calmly sipping tea while the other looks on. His older brother, Chris Moonlight, tells him to speak comfortably, as they are family after all. His sister, Caitlin Moonlight, introduces herself, noting that this is their first time meeting face-to-face. Chris warmly insists that he can just call him Big Brother, and Shutra nervously agrees. He recalls that these two were born to the 4th queen, Elaine, the queen of lycanthropes. He also remembers that in the game, both Chris and Caitlin die a year before the Day of Slaughter. Their demise is at the hands of Zephyr and the Demon King's other children, a tragic event in the story. The primary reason for their downfall is the secret surrounding Caitlin's true parentage. She wasn't actually a child of the Demon King, but was an illegitimate daughter from another affair. Caitlin suddenly questions him, asking why he fought the enemies instead of just scouting as planned. Before he can answer, she gets up and walks over to him, asking to see if he's been injured. She leans in close to inspect him for any wounds, catching the young prince completely off guard. She reminds him that he's the weakest of the siblings and needs to be more careful in the future. He is taken aback by their genuine concern, wondering if the Demon King's children are actually this close. Chris also chimes in, warning him that if he does anything reckless again, he'll be in for it. The prince stares at his siblings, questioning if they could actually be kind-hearted people. A determined glint appears in the prince's eyes as he devises a new plan to become stronger. He remembers that lycanthropes are known for having many aura users and thinks he can learn it easily. He turns to his older brother, Chris, catching his eye before making a very strange request. With a cheeky smile and glowing eyes, he asks his brother to strike him with his powerful aura. Chris and Caitlin stare at him with looks of pure shock and utter disbelief. Sometime later, back at the main camp, the war against the Red Lightning Tribe continues in full swing. A fierce battle unfolds, with warriors from both sides facing off in a desperate fight for survival. The battlefield is a chaotic mess of explosions and fallen soldiers from both armies. A large armored orc warrior single-handedly faces off against several smaller red-skinned enemies. He easily deflects their attacks, sending them flying with his immense strength and skill. A single powerful punch from the warrior is enough to shatter an enemy's face on impact. The red orc screams in pain and shock, completely overwhelmed by his opponent's raw power. The warrior then delivers a devastating blow to the ground, sending a shockwave that decimates his enemies. A red-skinned general roars in fury, ordering his men to kill them all and offering a reward. The green orcs respond with their own war cry, ready to face the new enemy attack. Shutra suddenly finds himself back in the mysterious void, completely removed from the ongoing battle. The goddess-like figure from before appears again, her presence radiating immense divine power. He then sees 2 shadowy figures materialize behind him, their identities a complete mystery to him. He wonders who these new characters are, as he is certain they never existed in the original game. The goddess places her hand on his shoulder. The prince is suddenly jolted awake, a bright light consuming his vision for a brief moment. He sits up, momentarily disoriented by the abrupt return to consciousness from the strange void. He finds himself back in his bed, the morning sun streaming into his tent through the entrance. He clutches his head, wondering if the entire experience was just a strange dream within the game. Karak's face suddenly appears right in front of him, startling the prince and making him scream. He jumps back in surprise, while the orc calmly notes that he looks fine after his ordeal. The general questions why he begged Chris to hit him, pointing out that he knew this would happen. As Karak speaks, Shutra feels a strange energy flowing through him, a new power awakening. A system notification confirms he has acquired Aura Level 1, and he can now feel it within him. He excitedly explains his theory that getting hit by an aura can awaken one's own, which is half right. Karak then asks if the prince was responsible for the power surge during their last battle. After a brief pause, Shutra asks what happened while he was asleep, and the orc confirms big news. He reports that the main camp has also secured a major victory against the Burak tribe. The prince is confused, as he thought only he and his siblings were sent to subdue the orcs. Karak explains that the main camp was led by General Bandel, an ogre worth 100 men. He recalls that Bandel is a ridiculously strong character and was his favorite to use as Zephyr. A sudden realization hits him, and he sees a new, unexpected opportunity presenting itself. He remembers that Bandel doesn't become Zephyr's subordinate until 3 years from now. This means he has a chance to recruit the powerful general to his own side before his brother does. He knows everything about Bandel, from his favorite gifts and food to the conditions for swaying him. The only way to sway Bandel is to defeat him in a one-on-one battle, a challenge he's now ready for. With his extensive knowledge of the game and his newfound abilities, he's confident he can succeed. He smirks, vowing to make the powerful ogre general his subordinate before Zephyr ever gets the chance. Back at Caitlyn's base, a new day begins, and the siblings are in for a major surprise. Chris is in disbelief that his younger brother managed to master the basic stage of Aura in just 1 day. Shutra proudly explains that he dumped all his stat points into Aura, so this result was expected. He further elaborates that Aura enhances overall physical ability, making it a better long-term investment. His older brother is still amazed, wondering if this incredible growth is due to his Gandharva heritage. Chris then asks if he can create a map of the tunnel system they discovered during their previous mission. Shutra confirms he has a mini-map and asks for some paper and a pen to draw it out for them. Chris is amazed by the detail, exclaiming that it's much better than the map he currently has. He excitedly calls his younger brother a genius, throwing an arm around him in a proud embrace. Caitlyn points out that since they wiped out the enemy squad, no one else knows about the tunnels. She then tells the young prince that she has one more important task for him to complete. The siblings head out into the vast, mountainous landscape, ready to begin their next operation. Shutra finds himself on another scouting mission, accepting his role as the weakest of the brothers for now. He notes that at least this time they have reinforcements, thanks to the credit they've earned. As they march through the forest, he notices 2 hooded figures observing them from the shadows. He is surprised to see his sister Caitlyn among them, her face partially hidden by the cloak. He asks why she's suddenly wearing a cloak, but she quickly shushes him, indicating they need to be quiet. She explains that she'll secretly tag along, just in case anything unexpected or dangerous happens. He is surprised by her trust but scoffs at the idea of an achievement, focusing on his own goals. The other hooded figure introduces herself as Sira, his new adjutant for this important mission. Caitlyn tells him to focus on scouting and not to mind them, as they will follow on their own. The group ventures back into the icy, cavernous tunnel system they had previously discovered. They find that all the rooms are completely empty, with no signs of life or valuable items. Karak remarks that the dwarves must have taken everything with them when they moved out long ago. The group continues their exploration, venturing deeper into the dark and mysterious caverns. Suddenly, Karak stops, sensing that something is approaching them from the darkness ahead. Shutra checks his mini-map and confirms the presence of a large group of enemies nearby. He quickly opens his inventory, a confident and prepared look on his determined face. He pulls out a special flash magic item, a small potion he brought along just in case. He whispers instructions to Karak, telling him to have everyone shut their eyes on his signal. A massive swarm of glowing red eyes appears from the darkness, revealing a terrifying nest of spiders. These are rock spiders, monsters that move in swarms and possess a powerful paralytic venom. With the enemies now in sight, he gives the signal and throws the flash magic potion forward. The potion shatters on the ground, releasing a blindingly bright flash of intense golden light. The entire cavern is illuminated by the sudden explosion of magical radiant energy. The rock spiders screech in agony, completely disoriented and stunned by the unexpected flash. Shutra explains that the creatures are immobilized by light and orders his units to attack. The orc soldiers charge forward, their battle cries echoing through the massive icy cavern. They clash with the immobilized rock spiders, cutting them down with their powerful weapons. Shutra stands back, observing the battle and allowing his forces to handle the smaller threats. He pulls up his minimap again, his eyes focused on the single, larger red dot among the swarm. He knows that every pack has a leader, and this one is no exception to that universal rule. He calls out to Karak, telling him to follow as they go after the main boss of the spider nest. The two of them break away from the main group, charging deeper into the heart of the cavern. They run past the ongoing battle, their focus solely on finding and eliminating the spider leader. They soon come face to face with a monstrous, multi-eyed creature, much larger than the others. Karak lets out a fierce battle cry and leaps forward, swinging his axe with all his might. His weapon connects with the creature's tough shell, but it bounces off harmlessly, creating a bright spark. The orc warrior is stunned by the ineffectiveness of his powerful attack against the boss. He complains about the creature's incredibly tough shell, which his axe is unable to pierce. Shutra recalls from the game that the monster's carapace is indeed insanely hard to break. He remembers that its only weakness is fire, but he doesn't have any fire magic at his disposal. The massive spider lets out a low growl, its many eyes glaring down at the two small intruders. It lunges forward, ready to attack, causing Karak to brace himself for the incoming assault. The prince quickly shouts for his companion to use fire, reminding him of the creature's weakness. Karak, however, is at a complete loss, questioning where he's supposed to find fire so suddenly. A new voice suddenly calls out to Shutra, instructing him to draw his sword immediately. He stares in disbelief, questioning if the voice he heard was actually channeling magic. His sister Caitlin appears with a powerful magical aura, asking if her enchantment will suffice. The massive spider lunges forward, its sharp mandibles ready to tear the young prince apart. With his sword now enchanted with fire, he confidently charges forward to meet the beast head-on. His eyes narrow with intense focus as he prepares to unleash the full power of his new weapon. He parries the creature's attack with his enchanted blade, the impact creating a powerful shockwave. He then leaps into the air, his cape billowing behind him as he prepares for a downward strike. He unleashes a powerful burning blade attack, engulfing the spider's many eyes in flames. The fiery attack spreads across the cavern floor, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. He lands gracefully, a confident and determined look on his face after the successful attack. He is then showered with multiple level-up notifications, a reward for defeating the boss. He checks his status and is pleased to see he has reached level 9, a significant milestone. His sister asks what the light was, and he dismisses it as a blessing that sometimes happens. He explains that it's a blessing from the Gandharva, a quick lie to cover his unique abilities. She then questions how he knew how to handle the spiders, and he claims he read about them in a book. Karak suddenly calls for his attention, pointing towards a new discovery deeper in the cave. They find a massive, ornate gate built into the cavern wall, a structure that seems out of place. The group cautiously walks through the gate, entering a large, torch-lit chamber beyond it. The prince recognizes the chamber's design, a familiar sight from his time playing the game. He realizes they have stumbled upon a town portal, a discovery that opens up new possibilities. Karak asks if he knows what the portal is, but Shutra claims he just has a feeling about it. He notes that the portal's design is definitely dwarven, a detail that confirms his suspicions. He recalls never seeing one while playing as Zephyr, but saw them a few times as the hero character. He remembers that the portals are activated by infusing them with a sufficient amount of magic. He tells his sister that he thinks the device is a portal, a statement that clearly surprises her. Sira agrees with the prince's assessment, and Caitlin asks if they know where it leads to. Karak spots a nearby plaque with some strange writing on it, which might hold the answer. The group gathers around the plaque to examine the inscription, hoping to find some clues. Caitlin notes that the writing is not the common demon language and appears to be dwarven script. She then asks if anyone can read it, but admits that she herself doesn't know the language. She turns to Sira for help, but the adjutant also apologizes for her inability to read the script. To everyone's surprise, Shutra casually reads the inscription aloud, identifying the portal's location. He continues to read, explaining that it's connected to another portal in the same network. He suddenly stops, confused as to how he can suddenly read and understand the dwarven script. A system notification then appears, confirming he has acquired Dwarven Script Level 1. Karak is amazed by the prince's new ability, and Shutra can only confirm that it seems he can. Sira also questions when he learned the language, and Caitlin asks him to read the rest. He explains that the inscription says it will work if they put some magic into the device. He then asks his sister to infuse the portal with magic, but she tells him to do it himself. He sheepishly admits that he's not very good at it, a lie to hide the fact he can't use magic. Caitlin reluctantly agrees and infuses the portal with her magic, causing it to activate. The portal glows with a bright ethereal blue light as the magical energy flows through it. A holographic map of the surrounding area materializes, showing the Jishuka mountain range. Shutra points out their current location and the position of the connected portal on the map. Carrick points out that the main force of the Red Lightning tribe is in front of that mountain range. Caitlin decides to stop for the day, needing to discuss the new strategic advantage with her brother. Back at the camp, Chris is ecstatic about the discovery of the portal, a game-changing find. He excitedly embraces his younger brother, calling him a good luck charm for their forces. He offers to do anything for him as a reward, a promise that the young prince is quick to accept. Shutra tries to refuse, but his brother insists, wanting to reward him as both family and leader. After a brief moment of hesitation, the prince decides to take his brother up on the generous offer. He makes a big request, something he's been thinking about for a while now to get stronger. He asks his older brother to teach him the legendary Beast God Fist martial art. Chris is stunned into silence by the unexpected and serious nature of his younger brother's request. Shutra explains that since his level is too low for weapons, he wants to learn powerful techniques. The Beast God Fist is a powerful S-rank martial art passed down through the lycanthrope royal family. He knows it's a big ask and starts to backtrack, figuring his brother will refuse the request. To his surprise, Chris agrees to teach him, a wide smile spreading across the prince's face. However, he clarifies that he can't teach him the secret techniques of the martial art. Instead of the Beast God Fist, he offers to teach his younger brother how to properly use aura. Shutra is left speechless by the offer, a mix of surprise and excitement on his young face. Seeing his silence, Chris assumes he doesn't like the offer, but the prince quickly reassures him. With the deal now settled, Chris gets a serious look on his face, addressing his younger brother. He asks if it's okay for him to think of him as another little brother, just like Caitlin. The prince is taken aback by the heartfelt question, realizing the weight of his brother's words. He understands that this is a significant step in their relationship, a sign of true acceptance. He quickly realizes that this is a good offer and agrees to the new family dynamic. The two brothers shake hands, sealing their newfound alliance with a firm and determined grip. Caitlin looks on with a warm smile, happy to see her two brothers finally bonding. Shutra declares that they will do their best together, ready to face whatever challenges lie ahead. A system notification confirms that a normal alliance has been formed with his two siblings. The alliance status is still at a basic level, but it's a crucial first step for their future. The sun sets over the mountains, casting a warm orange glow over the entire landscape. Meanwhile, at the Red Lightning tribe's garrison, a new and sinister plot is unfolding. The Red Orc soldiers stand guard, their expressions grim and their weapons at the ready. A new powerful-looking orc addresses his men, a cunning and cruel smirk on his face. He mentions their dear princess, hinting at a captive they have hidden within their camp. In a dark candlelit tent, a young woman is bound by magical chains, a helpless prisoner. Shutra reviews his stats, noticing that his charisma is lagging behind all his other attributes. He recalls that at first, all his stats went up by 2, but now charisma only increases by 1. He wonders why his charisma is growing slower, remembering a key detail from the original game. In Night Saga, appearance and charisma were 2 separate stats, each with a different function. He dismisses the thought, figuring it makes sense given his rapid growth in other areas. More importantly, he's about to hit level 10, a crucial milestone for any character in the game. He recalls that when the main characters reached level 10, their unique skills would also level up. Karak's voice interrupts his thoughts, announcing that everyone is ready to head out for the mission. The prince agrees, a confident and eager smile on his face as he prepares for the upcoming battle. Karak notes his good mood, but Shutra simply brushes it off, hiding his true excitement. The two of them step out of the tent, ready to lead their forces into the fray once again. They stand before their assembled army, the orc soldiers ready and waiting for their command. With a determined look, the prince gives the order, and the entire army begins to march forward. They head towards a dark and ominous cave entrance, the path to their next major battle. Inside the cave, lycanthrope soldiers are already engaged in a fierce battle with the local monsters. The wolf-like warriors fight with incredible ferocity, clearing a path to the ornate gate within. The main group arrives at the portal chamber, ready to begin the next phase of their operation. 2 hooded lycanthrope mages are already there, inspecting the portal to ensure it's safe to use. They confirm that the portal connects to the Eska tributary, just as the prince had predicted. They also assure the group that the portal is functioning properly, a testament to dwarven craftsmanship. With the portal now confirmed to be safe and operational, Chris gives the order to move out. The two mages begin to activate the portal, channeling their magic into the ancient device. The portal activates, revealing a shimmering gateway to another location in the mountains. Shutra stares at the portal, a mix of awe and excitement on his young, determined face. He thinks to himself how amazing it is to see one of these gates in real life, not just in a game. His sister calls out to him, urging him to hurry up and join them as they prepare to step through. He snaps out of his thoughts and rushes forward, ready to follow his siblings into the unknown. They step through the portal and arrive in a new, unfamiliar location, a rocky and barren landscape. The prince looks around, taking in the new surroundings with a curious and observant expression. They stand on a high cliff, overlooking a massive enemy encampment spread out below them. Chris is pleased with the discovery, confirming that their intel about the enemy base was correct. He estimates there are about 5,000 enemy troops, and their first priority should be the logistics officer. He outlines a plan for a pincer attack, with General Vandal leading a frontal assault. However, Sierra points out that something seems strange about the encampment below them. She notes that there are far too few troops, and Chris wonders where the rest of them could have gone. A distant sound catches their attention, a sign of a battle already in progress somewhere nearby. The prince looks towards the sound, confirming that there is definitely a fight happening over there. Chris instructs him to focus his aura into his eyes to get a better view of the distant conflict. He does as he's told, his eyes glowing with a faint white light as he enhances his vision. He can now clearly see the battle, with the Red Lightning tribe fighting against an unknown force. He recognizes one side as the Red Lightning Orcs, but the other group is completely unfamiliar to him. The prince notes that the scale of the battle is too small to be General Vandal's main army. He recognizes the mysterious warriors as Dark Elves, a race known for their fierce combat skills. The rest of the group is surprised by this revelation, not expecting to see Dark Elves in this region. Shutra explains that he can tell by their small build and the fact that they are riding Dracos. Chris spots the Dark Elves retreating from the battlefield, a sudden and unexpected turn of events. He wonders if their commander has fallen, as they are withdrawing with incredible speed. The group is left confused, questioning why the fight ended so abruptly and what it all means. The prince is particularly puzzled, wondering what Dark Elves could possibly be doing in this area. Later, back at their main camp, the siblings receive a holographic call from General Vandal. The general congratulates them on discovering the portal, a rumor he had already heard about. He commends Prince Chris's army for their impressive find, asking how they knew it was there. Chris gives all the credit to his younger brother, who humbly claims that he just got lucky. The general promises a handsome reward from the Demon King's castle for his valuable discovery. He then asks about a small skirmish that occurred near the Red Lightning Orc tribe's camp. The general explains that it was the Dark Elves who seemed to have jumped into the fight on their own. Chris is confused, as he heard they were supposed to be reinforcements from the Demon King's castle. The Ogre General clarifies that there's a problem, a serious complication in their plans. He reveals that the commander of the Dark Elf unit has been captured by the Red Lightning Orcs. Shutra asks who the captured commander is, a crucial piece of information for their next move. Vandal informs them that it's someone they know well, a person of great importance. The captured commander is none other than the 6th princess, Felicia Doomblade, another of their siblings. Chris and Caitlin are shocked to learn that their own sister has been captured by the enemy. She is the daughter of the 3rd queen and a former Dark Elf princess, with a twin brother named Sylvan. Shutra recalls that in the game, both siblings were part of the 4th princess Anastasia's faction. He wonders why Felicia has shown up in this region, speculating that she might be trying to take all the credit. Chris asks if the Red Lightning tribe knows that their captive is a Dark Elf princess. The general admits that he hasn't been able to confirm that information with his sources yet. The group discusses their plan, deciding to save her if possible, but without any prior negotiations. Chris declares that he has no intention of bowing his head to the enemy to secure her release. The Ogre General agrees to gather more information and contact them if anything new develops. After the call ends, the 3 siblings stand in silence, contemplating their next move. Chris breaks the silence, a wry smile on his face as he comments on their sister's capture. Caitlin insists they have to save her if she's still alive, but her brother warns it won't be easy. She is taken aback by his hesitation, realizing the potential dangers of a rescue mission. With a determined look, she declares that they must save her, as she is their sister after all. Chris hesitates, a bead of sweat running down his temple as he weighs the risks and rewards. He knows she's right, but the practicalities of the situation make him cautious about their approach. The lycanthrope soldiers stand guard outside the tent, their wolf-like forms ready for battle. Chris gathers his siblings and generals, laying out a simple and direct plan for the rescue. While General Vandal lures the main enemy force, they will launch a surprise attack from behind. He will then push into the center of the garrison to cause chaos, while the others carry out their missions. Shutra confirms the mission objectives: burn the food storage, destroy the armory, and rescue Felicia. Chris adds a crucial condition: if things get too dangerous, they must pull back immediately. Caitlin objects, but her brother silences her, reminding her that he is also a unit leader. He argues that they can't let Felicia's selfish actions ruin their entire operation and risk more lives. Shutra realizes that Chris doesn't actually want to save their sister, a surprising and cold revelation. He wonders what could have happened between them to cause such a rift in their relationship. As the night falls, the forces of General Vandal begin their advance on the enemy encampment. The general leads the charge, his warriors letting out fierce battle cries as they rush forward. The ogre general roars, ordering his men to take down the Red Lightning tribe with all their might. Meanwhile, Chris and his unit watch the unfolding battle from a high cliff overlooking the camp. They observe the enemy's movements, waiting for the perfect moment to launch their surprise attack. From their vantage point, they see Vandal's forces clash with the enemy, explosions lighting up the night. The frontal assault is a chaotic mess of flying rocks and desperate hand-to-hand combat. A powerful ogre warrior from Vandal's army charges into the fray, ready to wreak havoc. He roars with fury, his eyes glowing with a menacing red light as he orders his men to kill them all. Karak asks if they should join the fight, but Shutra tells him to wait for the signal. The two armies are locked in a brutal and bloody conflict, with casualties mounting on both sides. The battle is a chaotic whirlwind of swinging axes and desperate, savage cries of war. A large, armored ogre warrior from Vandal's army stands his ground against the enemy horde. The general watches the battle intently, his expression grim and his focus unwavering. Vandal gives the signal, and his entire army begins to retreat from the battlefield. Chris watches as the enemy camp is engulfed in flames, a result of their strategic retreat. He then addresses his own troops, telling them that it's their turn to enter the fight. The siblings stand ready, their faces determined as they prepare to lead their forces into battle. They charge down the cliff, their soldiers following close behind with fierce battle cries. The Red Lightning orcs are caught completely off guard by the sudden and unexpected flank attack. The lycanthrope and orc soldiers tear through the enemy ranks with savage, unstoppable force. Caitlin warns her younger brother to be careful as they rush into the heart of the chaotic battle. Shutra pulls up his mini-map, using it to navigate through the enemy camp with precision. He shouts for his unit to follow him to the left, a direct path to the enemy's food storage. Karak roars with fury, ordering his men to kill every last one of the enemy soldiers. He clashes with a red orc, his powerful axe easily overpowering his opponent's weapon. The enemy cries out in pain and shock as he's sent flying by the force of the orc's attack. Karak continues his rampage, a whirlwind of destruction in the midst of the enemy forces. He effortlessly deflects another attack, his skill and strength far superior to his opponent's. A system notification appears before Shutra, announcing he has learned dagger throwing level 1. He grins, a new and deadly skill now at his disposal to use against his unsuspecting foes. Karak is amazed by the prince's new ability, but Shutra dismisses it, urging him to keep moving. They arrive at the food storage, and the prince orders his men to set it ablaze immediately. He suddenly remembers Felicia, a look of concern on his face as a dark thought crosses his mind. He tells Karak they have to find Felicia first, but the orc is unsure how they can locate her. The prince pulls up his mini-map again, a confident and determined look on his young face. He explains that since Felicia is a neutral NPC, she should be marked as blue or purple on the map. His eyes widen in surprise as he spots a single purple dot in a nearby tent on the minimap. He quickly tells Karak to follow him, and they rush towards the tent where his sister is being held. They burst through the tent flap, their sudden entrance catching the occupant completely off guard. Shutra scans the room, certain that this is the right place, but Felicia is nowhere to be seen. A voice calls out his name, and he turns to see his older sister standing there, safe and sound. She is bound by glowing red chains, a magical restraint that keeps her from escaping on her own. The sixth princess, Felicia Doomblade, asks him how he managed to find her in the enemy camp. She is clearly surprised to see her younger brother, a look of disbelief on her beautiful face. He tells her it's too dangerous to stay, and that he'll untie her so they can escape quickly. The princess remains silent, her expression unreadable as she processes the unexpected rescue. After freeing her, they escape the tent and begin to make their way back to their own forces. Felicia is surprised to hear that her other siblings are also there to save her from the enemy. She questions if someone who wasn't supposed to show up came to her rescue, a hint of suspicion in her voice. Karak's voice suddenly cuts through the air, warning them that the enemy is closing in fast. Shutra quickly grabs his sister's hand, urging her to follow him to safety as they make a run for it. She is taken aback by his sudden use of the familiar term sis, a sign of their changing relationship. He continues to lead her through the chaotic battlefield, his focus solely on getting her to safety. Felicia suddenly shouts a warning, her eyes wide with terror as she spots a new threat. An enemy soldier appears behind Shutra and lands a powerful blow, sending him stumbling forward. He gasps in pain, a trickle of blood running from his mouth as the attack catches him off guard. The enemy then unleashes a fiery attack, a massive explosion of flames erupting from its hands. Felicia cries out her brother's name in a panic, fearing for his safety in the face of the attack. She rushes towards the enemy, her face a mask of fury as she prepares to retaliate. With a determined look, she clenches her fists, ready to take on the red orc soldier herself. Her eyes glow with a fierce golden light as she taps into her own latent power. She unleashes a powerful blast of energy, sending the enemy soldier flying backward. The princess is surprised by the sudden emergence of a strange dark smoke from the enemy. A mysterious figure steps out of the smoke, its presence radiating an overwhelming and dark aura. System notifications appear, announcing he has acquired magic control and fire arrow. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he realizes his new magical abilities. He is then attacked by a massive fiery beast, a powerful new enemy emerging from the chaos. He grins, a look of pure excitement on his face as he prepares to test out his newfound powers. He conjures a bow and arrow made of pure fire, ready to take on the monstrous creature. He fires multiple arrows in quick succession, each one finding its mark on the enemy soldiers. He laughs with glee, amazed that he can now use real magic in this new and dangerous world. He continues to fire his magical arrows, reveling in his newfound power and abilities. A massive wave of icy energy suddenly erupts from the side, a new and unexpected attack. He is surprised by the sudden appearance of ice, a magic he hasn't encountered before. An enemy archer takes aim, his icy arrow pointed directly at the vulnerable princess. Shutra realizes the danger and quickly pushes his sister out of the way of the incoming attack. He puts himself in the path of the arrow, taking the hit to protect his sister from harm. Felicia is stunned by his selfless act, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and disbelief. Multiple ice shards rain down from above, a deadly barrage aimed at the young prince. He looks up at the attack, a determined and almost crazed look on his young, focused face. With a wide grin, he declares that this new power is his for the taking, ready to absorb it. The ice shards slam into the ground around him, creating a massive explosion of frozen energy. A silhouette of the prince stands amidst the icy smoke, a new power awakening within him. A system notification confirms he has acquired Ice Arrow Level 1, just as he expected. He looks on with a grim expression, the thrill of new power overshadowed by the pain of the attack. He is sent flying backward, the force of the ice magic too much for his small body to handle. A critical health warning appears, his HP dropping to a dangerously low level from the attack. He grits his teeth in frustration, realizing how foolish he was to take such a direct hit. He turns to his sister, a look of pain and exhaustion on his face as he struggles to stand. She scolds him for his reckless actions, asking who gave him permission to save her in the first place. She calls him the weakest of the siblings, questioning who he thinks he is to be saving anyone. He realizes that she has misunderstood his intentions, a look of confusion on his face. She then questions when he learned magic, her eyes fixed on a new enemy in the distance. He sees the defeated mage and realizes his sister took care of the threat herself. He understands that she thinks he saved her, a misconception that could work to his advantage. He is surprised by a sudden flash of green light, a new and unfamiliar sensation. Felicia kneels beside him, her hands glowing with a warm, healing energy. She places her hands on his chest, channeling her magic to mend his wounds. A piece of cloth on his chest glows with the healing energy, the magic working its wonders. A system notification appears, confirming he has acquired Heal Level 1. She asks if he's feeling better, and he confirms that his health is now full, a term she doesn't understand. A strange, otherworldly sound echoes through the camp, catching both of their attention. A massive, red-skinned ogre with glowing eyes appears, its presence radiating immense power. Shutra recognizes it as a blood ogre, a powerful and dangerous ogre mutation. They stand together, ready to face the new and formidable threat that stands in their way. The prince panics, wondering how they are supposed to fight such a powerful monster. The massive blood ogre slams its fist into the ground, unleashing a shockwave that sends the siblings flying back. The young prince is shocked by its incredible speed, wondering how a creature that large can move so fast. His sister tells him to distract it so she can use magic, but he panics, asking how he can possibly do that. The force of the attack sends them both tumbling through the air as he lets out a desperate cry. He quickly gets an idea and tells his sister to prepare her magic, while he draws its attention, but she looks confused by his words. The youth calls out for Carrick, who appears nearby. He tells the orc to get ready, just like last time. As he runs, the prince summons a translucent screen in front of him, accessing his inventory. He selects an item from the menu, the dwarf dagger, thinking he should be able to use it now. A golden light flashes as the weapon materializes in his hand, ready for the fight ahead. The dagger glows with a brilliant light, humming with a powerful energy. He crouches low and plunges the glowing blade into the ground, releasing a wave of golden power. The prince activates a skill under the king's banner, channeling the energy directly into his orc companion. Carrick roars as the golden aura surrounds him, greatly amplifying his strength and determination. The warrior's eyes widen, feeling the immense power now flowing through his body. The blood ogre watches this transformation, its expression turning serious as it faces a newly empowered foe. Now glowing with power, Carrick stands his ground, ready to challenge the giant red creature. With a powerful leap, the orc warrior charges forward, swinging his massive weapon at the enemy. The blood ogre lets out a ferocious growl, meeting the attack head-on with its own crude weapon. Their weapons clash with immense force as Carrick skillfully deflects the powerful blow from the monster. The empowered orc and the massive blood ogre are now locked in a fierce and earth-shaking struggle. The massive blood ogre grunts, its muscles straining under the immense pressure from Carrick's empowered attack. As the two giants are locked in a stalemate, the princess leaps into the air, her body glowing with pink energy. With a determined look, she gathers her magic, preparing to strike the distracted monster from behind. She then unleashes a powerful blast of energy directly at the back of the blood ogre's legs. The magical attack hits its target, causing the huge creature to lose its footing and stumble. Roaring in pain and surprise, the monster topples backward, its large body completely defenseless. Carrick seizes the opportunity, leaping high into the air above the falling beast for a final attack. With a grim expression, the orc warrior declares that the long and difficult battle is finally over. He dives down like a meteor, aiming his weapon directly at the exposed chest of the fallen creature. The blood ogre lets out a final cry of agony as the decisive blow lands with incredible force. The empowered orc warrior drives his weapon deep into the monster's chest, ending its rampage for good. After the dust settles, the young prince walks calmly across the battlefield towards the defeated enemy. He smiles with relief, thinking he has won and dealt with the most troublesome foe in the camp. Suddenly, a bright golden aura erupts around him, catching the young man completely off guard. He looks around in confusion as a translucent system window appears before his eyes. The notification announces that he has leveled up, finally reaching the important milestone of level 10. Another message confirms that his unique protagonist buffed skill has also increased in level. A confident smirk forms on his face as he thinks about the new power he has just gained. The system informs him that a new passive skill has been added, and he decides to open his present box. He looks at the reward in disbelief, realizing he has just obtained the legendary Storm Trooper effect. He thinks about the common trope where dozens of bullets miraculously miss the main character in action scenes. With his new skill, he believes he can now recreate that very same protagonist buff effect for himself, but his thoughts are interrupted by the roar of a charging horde of red orcs rushing toward them. His sister snaps him out of it, warning him that the enemies are closing in fast. The princess glares at the approaching horde, her face a mask of annoyance and determination. She summons a raging whirlwind, commanding it to swirl and tear through the enemy soldiers. The young prince stands firm as the powerful winds rush past him, a look of surprise on his face. He observes her power closely, realizing that what she just unleashed is not ordinary magic. He sees ethereal butterflies dancing in the vortex and understands she is commanding a spirit. He recalls that Felicia was a born spirit user, a trait of elves, even corrupted dark elves. He watches her effortlessly control the powerful storm, her enemies completely helpless within it. A mischievous thought crosses his mind as he wonders if he could try attacking the spirit himself. Suddenly, a bright yellow signal flare streaks across the sky, exploding high above the camp. The orc warriors on the battlefield stop and look up at the bright signal from their general. Carrick asks what the flare means, and the prince explains that yellow is the signal to retreat. The youth immediately grows concerned, wondering if someone is in grave danger somewhere else. Carrick asks for his orders, and the prince tells him to lead the troops and pull back as commanded. He then declares his intention to go find their sister Caitlin, shocking his loyal subordinate. Carrick protests, saying he will go with the prince, but the youth insists he follows the retreat order. Just then, Felicia steps forward and says she will go with her brother, leaving Carrick speechless. The princess states she dislikes owing debts and wants a chance to pay him back for saving her life. Carrick adds that he also has his own score to settle with the enemy soldiers. The orc warrior finally relents, telling the prince to be careful while he waits. The youth agrees. As they walk, she questions the need to check on Caitlin. He cites the suspicious retreat order. His sister then looks at him intently, asking if he is genuinely worried about Caitlin. He claims it's natural for siblings to worry, though he secretly just sees her as a valuable ally. Felicia quietly considers his answer with a thoughtful, almost skeptical expression. They make their way through the now chaotic and war-torn enemy encampment under the starlit sky. Meanwhile, in another part of the camp, a horde of red orcs lets out a furious roar as they charge. Their target is Caitlin, who stands her ground alone, facing the overwhelming number of enemies. Her gaze is sharp and focused, showing no fear as she prepares for the intense battle ahead. She unleashes a series of powerful energy blasts, stopping the first wave of attackers in their tracks. The orcs roar in pain as the explosions erupt around them, but more soldiers continue to press forward. An enemy throws a weapon, but she easily dodges the attack, her movements fluid and precise. She then summons a glowing blade of pure energy, preparing to go on the offensive. With a powerful swing, she unleashes a crescent-shaped wave of energy that cuts through several orcs. Just then, the prince and Felicia arrive to find Caitlin standing victorious among fallen enemies. He observes the scene with a relieved smile, realizing there was never any need to worry. Caitlin turns to them, demanding to know why he came here instead of following the retreat order. She looks genuinely confused by his flustered explanation that he came to help her. The siblings stand together, their presence intimidating as they prepare to leave the enemy camp. Caitlin suddenly runs forward and gives Felicia a tight hug, exclaiming her name in relief. She expresses how glad she is to see her sister is safe after being captured by the enemy. Felicia blushes slightly, telling her she worries too much about unnecessary things. The prince watches their interaction with a small smile, remarking on how well they seem to get along. He quickly checks his map, seeing enemy forces closing in on their position. A system window appears as he quickly confirms the enemy's movements. He urges everyone to retreat quickly, and Caitlin tells him to lead the way while they cover the rear. They arrive at a hidden portal, surrounded by allied orc soldiers who had been waiting for them. A bright blue light emanates from the portal, as the siblings prepare to step through it. They step onto the glowing sigil, and the portal activates, transporting them away from the battlefield. Caitlin asks if it was Stratus who found the portal, and Felicia confirms he made a big contribution. Carrick wonders aloud how the prince has changed so much recently, his curiosity piqued. Their older brother Chris watches as they return safely, his expression serious and unreadable. The muscular warrior calls out to his younger brother, his voice echoing in the large chamber. Caitlin happily reports that she brought Felicia back safely from the enemy encampment. Felicia greets Chris, noting that it has been a while since they last saw each other. He remains silent for a moment, his gaze fixed on her with an unreadable expression. Caitlin speaks up again, informing him that General Vandal's forces were also victorious. Chris explains that the enemy gave up fighting after seeing their main base burning to the ground. The prince repeats the name with a confused look, and Caitlin explains it's the enemy chieftain. Felicia then asks if Yakuzan surrendered, but Chris clarifies that he just fled and could still be a threat. The older brother announces their plan to attack another enemy unit tomorrow, preventing them from regrouping. After outlining the strategy, he asks Felicia how she ended up getting captured by the enemy. She claims she was researching ruins nearby, heard the battle, and was captured while trying to help. Chris gives her a skeptical look, clearly doubting the truth of her explanation. With a slight smile, she asks why he thinks her story sounds like a lie, not backing down. The tension between the two siblings is palpable as they exchange a silent, challenging stare. Her confident gaze meets his suspicious one, hinting at a complicated history between them. Chris decides to drop the subject, suggesting everyone is tired and should rest for the night. Felicia agrees with his suggestion, and the siblings finally part ways to get some sleep. Elsewhere in the camp, the Allied soldiers enjoy a well-deserved meal and rest around the fire. Meanwhile, the young prince sits alone, happily reviewing his newly acquired skills on the system's screen. Despite his new magical abilities, he realizes his most reliable combat skill is still his aura. His thoughts are interrupted when Felicia appears at his door, asking to speak with him. He asks what she wants at such a late hour, but she just stands there with a serious expression. She calls his name again, her face unreadable as she walks slowly towards the confused youth. Without any warning, she suddenly reaches out and grabs the front of his clothes, pulling him forward. He is completely stunned by her sudden and aggressive action, unable to form a proper response. Leaning in close, she then makes a very unexpected request, asking him to take off his clothes. The young prince is completely flustered by her request, his face blushing as he stammers in confusion. She calmly points to his clothes, repeating her request without any hesitation or embarrassment. Still blushing, he asks her why on earth she would want him to do something like that. Felicia clarifies her intentions, asking if he doesn't want her to treat the injuries he sustained in battle. He looks at her with wide, surprised eyes, a wave of relief washing over his face as he understands. She explains that the healing she performed earlier was just basic first aid to stabilize him. Worried about internal injuries, she wants to cast a proper healing spell, much to his slight disappointment. She then asks about his body glowing, but he quickly dismisses it as something that just happens sometimes. He seizes the opportunity to change the subject, telling her he has a favor to ask of her. The prince adds that it's a favor only she can grant, a mischievous look appearing on his face. Thanks to her cooperation, he manages to acquire 3 new skills: Cure, Cure Poison, and Cure Disease. Now fully clothed again, he looks at his new abilities with a satisfied and triumphant smile. By having her cast different healing spells on him, he successfully learned them for himself. Later, he begins his training with Caitlin, who explains that Beast Fist has many different branches. She announces that he will finally learn the technique, starting with the werewolf Beast Fist style. A glowing blue emblem of a werewolf appears, symbolizing the martial art of the lycanthropes. This specific style is the foundation for the more advanced Beast God Fist, making it a crucial lesson. Caitlin explains that the technique uses both internal and external aura, and today's lesson will focus on internal aura control. He closes his eyes as instructed, focusing his concentration as a blue and purple aura begins to glow around him. With intense focus, he successfully taps into his internal energy, feeling the flow of his own aura. He visualizes his aura, the very power of life, coursing through his hands and feet like lightning. This energy is infinitely close to the power of the soul, and when pushed to its limit, it can become one with it. As he masters this control, a system notification suddenly appears before him, announcing a new passive skill. He is surprised to see he has acquired Protagonist Body, a skill he has never heard of before. The skill's description reveals it greatly boosts training efficiency and unlocks new traits upon leveling up. He is completely shocked, realizing that he has just obtained another incredibly powerful, cheat-like skill. He compares it to the passive skills of his rivals, realizing his new ability is just as potent. He understands that this skill evolves, adding completely new functions each time it levels up. A confident and slightly wicked grin spreads across his face as he thinks about the possibilities. He clenches his fists, feeling an exhilarating thrill, believing this is the true power of a protagonist. Caitlin snaps him out of his daydream, scolding him for losing focus. He quickly apologizes for the distraction. She tells him it's time to learn Beast Fist properly now, and he eagerly agrees to her lesson. He successfully channels his aura, and a notification confirms he has acquired Beast Fist Level 1. His sister is amazed, remarking on how quickly and perfectly he executed the basic movements. The prince looks at his glowing hands, feeling a power so tangible it's like holding a weapon. Just as Caitlin is about to continue, a werewolf soldier rushes into the training area with an urgent look. He reports that something terrible has happened, catching both the prince and his sister by surprise. Their brother Chris appears and delivers the grim news that Kairam's entire unit has vanished. The siblings immediately gather around a large map on a table to assess the new, troubling situation. Chris concludes the enemy must have figured out their strategy, and Caitlin asks what their next move is. Chris points to a specific location on the map, explaining that it's the likely meeting point for the two enemy forces. The young prince analyzes the terrain and position, agreeing that the prediction is most likely correct. Concluding they must make a decisive move, Chris announces they will join forces with General Vandal. The scene shifts to the main force's base, a large military camp set against a mountainous backdrop. A massive red, skin-dark general greets Chris, welcoming him to the subjugation force's headquarters. Chris returns the greeting with a confident smile, remarking that the general looks the same as always. Vandal then greets the princesses, but the young prince interrupts, asking about his own subordinates. The youth recalls that the general was his most used character in the original game, making him feel familiar. He steps forward and introduces himself to Vandal, extending a hand for a handshake. The general pauses for a moment, surprised by the young prince's bold and confident demeanor. He then firmly shakes the youth's hand, formally welcoming the ninth prince to his forces. Elsewhere, a mysterious woman with long white hair and mismatched eyes descends from a brilliant light. Her gaze is regal and intense, her presence commanding an aura of immense, almost divine power. She is met by another powerful figure, a woman clad in fiery red armor that radiates intense heat. The armored warrior is surrounded by flames, her own power seeming to rival that of the first woman. The two powerful women stare each other down, their auras clashing in a silent display of strength. The tension between them is palpable as they prepare for a confrontation of epic proportions. A young man, the prince, stands between them, a look of shock and disbelief on his face. He watches the two powerful women, a bead of sweat running down his cheek as he feels their immense auras. The word, conquest, appears, along with a powerful emblem, hinting at a new and dangerous conflict. A second emblem appears, representing war, setting the stage for the massive conflict to come. The young prince sits up in his bed, the morning light filtering into his tent as he collects his thoughts. With a sudden jolt, he realizes the intense vision he just witnessed was only a dream. He recalls the woman with mismatched eyes, certain he has seen her in his dreams before this one. But he remains completely clueless about the identity of the mysterious woman in fiery red armor. Carrick calls out from the tent's entrance, telling the prince it's time to depart for the battle. The youth and his loyal orc subordinate leave the tent and head out to join the main army. The camp is bustling with activity as soldiers carry supplies, preparing for the impending march. The prince goes over the battle plan, noting that he has been assigned to command the left wing. Vandal will lead the center, Chris and Caitlin the right, while the agile Dark Elves form a separate rear unit. Time seems to fly by as the combined forces begin their advance towards the enemy's position. The next thing he knows, he finds himself standing in the middle of a vast, chaotic battlefield. He is surrounded by thousands of allied soldiers, facing an equally massive enemy army across the field. General Vandal's voice rings out, ordering all soldiers to assume their combat positions immediately. With a grim and determined look, the general vows to teach their enemies the true meaning of pain. He raises his axe high and gives the final command, ordering all forces to charge forward. The enemy army, a horde of red orcs with shields and swords, rushes to meet their advance. The enemy chieftain watches the charging army with a sinister and mocking smile on his face. As he calls them foolish, a massive explosion suddenly erupts in the middle of Vandal's forces. The general looks on in complete shock, completely unprepared for such a devastating and unexpected attack. The orc general stands frozen in shock, his eyes wide as he processes the devastating surprise attack. Towering behind the enemy lines, a monstrous swamp mammoth with glowing red eyes reveals itself as the source. Vandal recognizes the terrifying beast with a look of pure dread, his voice trembling as he names it. More magical explosions continue to detonate within the ranks of the allied forces, spreading chaos. The battlefield is engulfed in fire and smoke as countless soldiers are sent flying by the relentless barrage. The initial charge has been completely broken, turning the battlefield into a scene of utter destruction. Standing with his own unit, the young prince and Carrick watch the unfolding disaster with grim expressions. The youth grits his teeth in frustration, realizing their entire army has walked directly into a deadly trap. As the mammoth continues its rampage, he understands the enemy knew their strategy from the very beginning. This creature is no ordinary beast, its sheer size and power far surpassing that of a normal mammoth. With its menacing red eyes glowing in the smoke, the monster is a genuine and terrifying threat. A red aura flares up around the prince as he prepares himself for the inevitable fight ahead. But before he can act, another enemy emerges from the chaos, its sharp claws digging into the ground. A new wave of reptilian warriors, lizardmen armed with swords, joins the battle against the allied forces. The allied orc soldiers look on in horror as this new and unexpected enemy appears on the battlefield. The prince turns his head, his eyes widening as he sees the lizardmen charging toward their position. The reptilian soldiers tear through the disorganized ranks, adding to the ever-growing chaos. A ferocious lizard man leaps directly toward the prince, its mouth open in a terrifying roar. The creature swings its weapon down with deadly force, aiming to strike the stunned youth. Carrick's voice suddenly roars, warning everyone to snap out of it before they are all killed. The prince quickly snaps back to reality, realizing this is a real battle and not just a game. On the right flank, Chris fights fiercely, realizing the enemy knew their plans all along. Caitlin suggests they should retreat and wait for another opportunity to strike back. She argues that pressing on could lead to even greater losses, possibly even the entire army's annihilation. Her brother is torn, but he knows she is right. Continuing the fight now would be a grave mistake. With a heavy heart, Chris makes the difficult decision and issues a command to his forces. He orders the mages to form a defensive line and buy time for the rest of the army. The rest of the troops are to form ranks and retreat as quickly and orderly as possible. He roars at his soldiers, ordering them to survive and return, no matter what happens on the battlefield. Later, the surviving soldiers have retreated to a temporary camp set up in a secluded canyon. Healers tend to the wounded, their green magic glowing as they mend the injuries of the exhausted soldiers. In the command tent, Chris admits his own complacency, wishing he had been more suspicious. General Vandal tells him what's done is done, and their only options are to retreat or call for reinforcements. The older prince agrees, unwilling to sacrifice his subordinates for a vain attempt at glory. But just as he is about to give the order, Felicia interrupts, announcing she has an idea. She reminds them her original purpose for being in the area was to explore some ancient ruins. The prince recalls that in the game, she was an excellent mage, but specialized in research, not combat. Felicia unrolls a map, pointing to a location in the Jashuka Mountains, the site of the ruins. She explains that she has been researching a 1,500-year-old ruin known as the lair of the earth dragon Enkidu. The dragon, born from lava, employed various powerful guardians to protect its lair and its vast treasures. She continues, explaining that among these guardians were the dwarves who lived in the Jashuka Mountains. The dragon had them forge special weapons to protect its home. Felicia reveals the name of this legendary weapon, the thunder-birthing anvil. It can control chimeras and cast magic powerful enough to wipe out an entire army. A hand slams down firmly on the map, right over the depiction of the powerful anvil, signifying a decision has been made. The princess declares with absolute conviction that if they want to win this war, finding this weapon is their only real option. General Vandal asks Felicia if she knows the anvil's exact location, since she originally came to this area to find it. Chris dismisses her idea, saying her information isn't much help if she doesn't know where the weapon is. He argues they can't risk everyone's lives on a treasure hunt when the enemy might attack again at any time. Felicia glares at her brother, upset by his words, and insists that the legendary anvil is definitely here. At that moment, the young prince steps forward with a serious expression, catching his sister by surprise. He explains he has seen the anvil in the game and also read about it while studying dwarven stories. The youth continues speaking with confidence, turning to face his siblings and the skeptical general. He finishes by stating that most importantly, he believes in Sister Felicia, leaving her momentarily stunned. She looks at her younger brother, touched by his sudden support, while he thinks this is a good chance to score points. Chris argues that it is not about who to trust, but the prince internally notes how persistent his brother is. The youth then points to the map, revealing that the Gandharva tribe also has similar legends about this place. He gestures to a specific mountain, certain the ruin entrance is located there, and that he can find it. He promises to take full responsibility if they fail, asking for their trust just this one time. Later, a small group flies through the dark night sky on glowing phantom steeds summoned by Felicia. The expedition team, cloaked for the journey, glides silently on their magical mounts toward the mountains. The prince is relieved they managed to leave to find the anvil, but now he has another problem to solve. Carrick tells him to hold on tight, but the youth is confident, recalling that he rode these mounts often in the game. He summons a transparent screen in front of him, looking just like a game interface from his past life. According to the mini-map, it will take about an hour to reach the entrance, making navigation easy for him. He thinks the real challenge is figuring out how to guide the others to the location in a natural way. The prince concentrates, trying to think of a convincing excuse to lead the group without revealing his secret. He decides he just needs to come up with a plan before they arrive, confident that it will all work out somehow. He then blurts out a complex reason about portal maps and terrain features, claiming he can find the location that way. His companions stare at him in stunned silence. The youth internally wonders if his absurd excuse actually worked. After they land, Caitlin asks what he meant. He feels frustrated, but she just tells him to lead the way. The young man turns to his other sister, hoping for some kind of support for his desperate plan. Felicia calmly says she understood everything he said and tells him to lead on, much to his surprise. He is shocked that his made-up story was actually accepted, but quickly recovers and tells everyone to follow him. His older sister watches him go for a moment, with a knowing look before turning away, with a slight huff. After following him for some time, Carrick points out that they have arrived at a dead end. The entire group stands before a massive, solid rock cliff that completely blocks the path forward. The orc questions if the prince really knows where the entrance is. The youth just gives him a confident smirk. His loyal subordinate looks confused when the young man asks when he ever mentioned going to the entrance. The prince then turns to Caitlin, asking if she can break through the rock wall, startling her. She seems to understand his unspoken plan, nervously agreeing to try while wondering what he has in mind. He explains that according to his calculations, this route will allow them to bypass the dungeon's guardians. Felicia interrupts, scolding him and asking how Caitlin could possibly break the wall with her fists. She sarcastically questions if he thinks his sister is a siege weapon, leaving him confused about how to proceed. With a confident smirk, she explains that ruin explorers specialize in destruction as she gathers blue energy. She then unleashes a powerful blast of crackling magic, sending it hurtling toward the solid rock wall. The magical energy slams into the cliffside, resulting in a massive explosion that echoes through the canyon. Felicia looks on in disbelief, stunned when she realizes that her powerful magic had no effect on the rock wall. But once the dust clears, a large chamber is revealed, making her wonder if they really found it so easily. The group enters the ancient hall, where Carrick asks about a dome in the center, and the prince confirms it holds the anvil. The orc suggests breaking the dome, but the youth advises against it, warning that they could damage the precious artifact inside. Felicia agrees with him, concluding there must be a specific mechanism designed to safely open the protective barrier. She then turns her head, her sharp eyes noticing something else about the large, silent chamber they are in. The young prince points out the statues look odd, as 3 of them are holding weapons while 6 are empty-handed. Caitlin realizes they must give weapons to the remaining statues, but her brother says the solution is not that simple. He explains that the armed statues hold dwarf-made weapons, meaning they need to find more of them to solve the puzzle. Just as they wonder where to get such items, the prince reveals he has exactly 6 of them, leaving Felicia shocked. He internally recalls storing weapons he couldn't use in his inventory, feeling fortunate that they are now useful. He tells everyone he brought spares from a previous exploration, but Carrick is suspicious of how he carried so many. The youth internally curses the orc's sharp instincts before complaining about how heavy the weapons are. After he hands them out, the last of the 6 dwarf-made swords is placed into a statue's empty stone hands. The moment the final weapon is set, the eyes of the statue suddenly light up with a brilliant blue glow. A bright pillar of light then erupts from the center of the chamber, startling the entire group. They all watch in amazement as the protective dome slowly begins to retract and open on its own. The young prince stares with wide eyes, completely captivated by the legendary object being revealed before him. In the center of the room, the anvil that births thunder hovers, radiating an immense and powerful aura. The group stands in awe before the legendary artifact, the anvil that births thunder, which floats with a powerful glow. But Felicia explains there is one final procedure they must perform to properly operate the ancient device. She instructs the prince and Carrick to remain where they are while the others position themselves around the glowing disc. The plan is to inject magic power into the platform, starting with her and gradually increasing the amount clockwise. Everyone moves to their designated spots, forming a circle around the anvil as they get ready to begin the ritual. Felicia tells them to focus and begins the process, gathering crackling blue energy between her outstretched hands. A web of electrical energy connects them all as they pour their magic into the device, making the entire room hum with power. She suddenly shouts at her brother, urging him to channel more magic power into the ritual, and he quickly obeys. The princess encourages the group to maintain the energy flow, warning them not to let their guard down for even a moment. The 2 siblings continue to channel their power, and the immense magical pressure builds around the glowing artifact. He grits his teeth with a look of intense concentration, focusing all his energy on the demanding activation ritual. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning erupts from the anvil, shooting straight up and blasting through the mountain's peak. The bright flash of light fades, leaving the young prince disoriented as he finds himself in a completely different place. He is now in a vast fiery chamber, surrounded by the bodies of countless defeated dwarven warriors. The scene is one of utter devastation, with the fallen dwarves stretching out as far as the eye can see. A commanding voice suddenly echoes through the chamber, and the youth looks around in shock and confusion. He quickly looks up toward the ceiling, trying to locate the source of the powerful voice that booms from above. His eyes widen in pure disbelief as he sees the immense and terrifying figure descending from the smoke-filled sky. A colossal black dragon with glowing red eyes hovers over the battlefield, its presence radiating overwhelming power. The massive beast then unleashes a devastating torrent of fire, engulfing the entire chamber in a wave of flames. The dragon's voice booms in his mind, commanding its servants to guard the great nest of Enkidu. The massive beast orders him to block the path that connects the demon and human realms. Its final command is for him to become the gatekeeper, a solemn and heavy responsibility. The intense vision suddenly ends, leaving the young prince lying dazed on the cold stone floor of the ruins. He shakily sits up, certain he just saw a black dragon, and realizes it must be the legendary earth dragon Enkidu. A voice calls out to him, and he looks up to see his sister Felicia asking if he also saw the vision. She describes seeing a huge black dragon with lava flowing through its body, confirming his experience. Carrick then admits he saw the dragon too, leading the prince to realize they all shared the same mysterious vision. Felicia confirms this, though she admits she does not know what it means for them or their mission. She turns to the artifact, certain that they will find the answers they seek by using the anvil. With a determined look, the princess steps forward, getting closer to the crackling and glowing artifact. But as she reaches for it, a sudden burst of dark purple energy erupts from her body, surprising everyone. The dark energy quickly engulfs her, and she seems to be in immense pain as she struggles against its power. Her face is contorted in agony as the powerful, dark aura rages uncontrollably around her. The prince cries out her name in alarm, watching as the volatile energy intensifies and overwhelms her completely. As he reaches out to help, she weakly tells him to stop, but her voice is lost in the chaotic energy. He grabs her hand anyway, trying to pull her back, but is immediately caught in the powerful dark aura himself. A massive explosion of violent purple energy erupts from the two siblings and the anvil, flooding the entire chamber. Their companions can only watch in horror, shouting their names in desperation as the blast consumes them. The prince screams in agony as the uncontrolled power surges through him, threatening to tear him apart. A single word echoes in his mind: conquer, as he is consumed by the earth dragon's immense magic power. He realizes this must be a trial for those not permitted to touch the anvil, a test he now has to face. His vision is filled with a bright flash of light as the word conquest burns into his mind. The eruption of dark magic finally subsides, leaving a lingering purple haze around the now silent anvil. Carrick and Caitlin can only stare in shock, watching the aftermath of the chaotic magical explosion. The dust settles to reveal the young prince kneeling on the ground, his body still crackling with purple energy. He supports his sister with one arm, a strange, dark weapon now clutched in his other hand. A shadowy aura covers the right side of his face, as one of his eyes glows with a menacing purple light. Meanwhile, back at the temporary camp, the remaining allied soldiers are unaware of the looming danger. High on the cliffs overlooking the canyon, Red Orc scouts watch the unsuspecting camp below. One of them uses a spyglass, confirming the enemy's location with a sinister grin on his face. He mockingly laughs at the foolish soldiers, confident that their hiding spot has been completely exposed. He then turns to his superior, asking if they should launch a direct and immediate attack on the camp. The powerful orc chieftain of the Red Lightning tribe, Yakuzan, listens to his subordinate's report. He gives the order for all of his warriors to prepare for battle, declaring it is time to clean up the remaining trash. Suddenly, the allied soldiers in the camp look up in alarm, startled by a strange sound from above. A barrage of fiery meteors rains down from the night sky, heading straight for their vulnerable position. The camp is immediately engulfed in a series of massive explosions as the magical attack devastates the area. From the cliffs, a massive army of red orcs and war mammoths begins its descent toward the burning camp. The red orc horde charges forward with ferocious battle cries, ready to slaughter any survivors of the initial attack. Chris curses their terrible situation, realizing that without their strongest fighters, The army is about to be wiped out. He can only watch from a distance as the fiery explosions continue to devastate their temporary camp. Meanwhile, the Red Orc chieftain laughs at the foolish demons, saying they deserve this for their arrogance. He orders his mages to kill all the remaining soldiers, and they begin to gather magical energy for the final blow. One of the mages channels a powerful purple aura into his hand, preparing to unleash a devastating spell. But he suddenly stops in confusion, looking down in shock as he finds himself completely unable to move his hands. At that moment, the swamp mammoth is enveloped in the same purple energy, its eyes glowing with a menacing light. The charging Red Orc warriors on the ground halt, confused as to why their own forces have suddenly stopped. The massive beast then turns on its own army, unleashing a devastating magical blast upon the unsuspecting orcs. The chieftain watches from the cliffs, his triumphant expression turning to one of utter disbelief and confusion. He roars in anger, demanding to know what is happening and why their own war beast is attacking them. Back in the canyon, Chris watches the mammoth turn on the enemy, just as bewildered by the sudden turn of events. He stares in utter shock, trying to process this unbelievable and fortunate development on the battlefield. A sudden thought strikes him as he stares at the purple aura, realizing the prince must have found the anvil. Back in the ruins, the prince is kneeling, crackling with purple energy, and holding a dark, powerful weapon. He continues to support his unconscious sister, the newly acquired hammer glowing ominously in his hand. He recognizes it as the Thunder Hammer, the legendary weapon that is meant to be paired with the anvil. A dark elf helps Felicia to her feet and tells the young prince that it seems the dragon Enkidu has chosen him. The youth is completely stunned by her words, looking up in disbelief, unable to process the revelation. His sister then tells him he needs to use the hammer, as the entire group watches him, waiting for his next move. He now understands that the dragon's magic power has taught him how to properly wield the hammer. He recalls the intense trial where he was conquered and forced to submit to the overwhelming power of the anvil. The very concept of conquest was burned into his mind, changing his understanding of true strength. He now realizes that to conquer is to dominate, and to dominate is to rule, which is the true purpose of the anvil. With this newfound knowledge, he confidently raises the dark thunder hammer, its purple energy crackling around him. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he decides his first act will be to dominate the swamp mammoth. He then strikes the anvil with the hammer, unleashing a massive wave of purple energy that surges out from the ruins. On the distant battlefield, the swamp mammoth roars as it becomes enveloped in the same powerful purple aura. The massive beast immediately turns on its own army, unleashing a devastating attack upon the unsuspecting Red Orcs. The enemy soldiers scream in terror and confusion, completely unprepared for the sudden betrayal of their war beast. Chaos and destruction spread through their ranks as the controlled mammoth continues its relentless rampage. The Red Orc chieftain watches from the cliffs, his face a mask of disbelief as he sees his forces being decimated. General Vandal sees the mammoth attacking the enemy and realizes the prince and his companions must have succeeded. He immediately seizes the opportunity, ordering his allied forces to charge forward and wipe out the enemy. The allied orcs clash with the disorganized Red Lightning tribe, pressing their advantage in the chaotic battle. The enemy chieftain stands frozen on the cliff, watching helplessly as his entire army falls into disarray. A subordinate asks how this is happening, and the chieftain admits he doesn't know who is wielding such power. When his subordinate suggests they should retreat for now, the chieftain roars in fury at the mere thought. At that moment, Chris appears behind him, landing a powerful blow that sends the unprepared chieftain stumbling. The prince's brother glares at his foe, telling him that this is as far as his destructive conquest will go. He offers to kill the chieftain painlessly if he surrenders, but the proud warrior only responds with a furious roar. The enraged orc leaps into the air, vowing to tear him to shreds for his insulting offer. But Chris is ready for him, unleashing a powerful beast Lord Fist attack to meet the chieftain's charge. The two powerful warriors clash in a devastating explosion of force that sends shockwaves across the cliff. The remaining red orcs watch in horror as their chieftain is defeated, their morale completely shattered. The prince's brother looks down at his bloodied hand, knowing he now just needs to clean up the rest of the enemy. Later, he stands with his younger siblings, admitting that they would have been in real trouble without their help. He then looks off into the distance, a concerned expression on his face as he wonders if they are okay. Back in the ruins, the others watch a magical projection showing the controlled mammoth rampaging through the enemy. The dark elf is still in awe, realizing that with the anvil's power, the Red Lightning tribe is being utterly destroyed. A look of grim satisfaction crosses her face as she watches the enemies complete and total annihilation. But as she speaks, she suddenly collapses, weakened from the earlier magical backlash from the artifact. Her companions rush to her side, and she reassures them that she will be fine after a little rest. The dark elf offers to prepare a place for her to rest, but then notices that the young prince is gone. A moment later, they find him outside the ruins, sitting alone and looking up at the sky. He breathes a sigh of relief as a series of notifications appear, informing him that he has leveled up multiple times. He is surprised by the sudden and massive increase in his level, wondering if it is because he used the anvil. Another notification then appears, informing him that his conquest skill has also leveled up. He opens his status window and is thrilled to see that his Under the King's Banner skill has leveled up as well. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he realizes his main skill is getting stronger, which is great news for him. He also notices a new skill called King's Knights, guessing from its name that it is some kind of summoning ability. Just then, a voice calls out his name, snapping him out of his thoughts with a sudden jolt. He turns to see his sister Caitlin walking toward him with a concerned look on her face. He greets her with a cheerful smile, realizing he had left the ruins without telling anyone where he was going. But before he can apologize, he receives a powerful chop to the head from his angry older sister. She scolds him for disappearing without a word, and he can only apologize for worrying her. She tells him it's fine as long as he is safe, but then says they will have to camp there for the night. He is confused by this, but she explains that while that was the original plan, they now have a problem. A look of concern crosses his face as he wonders what kind of problem could have come up now. Caitlin explains that their sister Felicia has lost consciousness and is now in a deep sleep. She says that Felicia had pushed herself too hard after being captured by the Red Lightning tribe. Even though she said she would be fine with some rest, she collapsed and has not woken up since. His sister then explains that without Felicia, they cannot summon the phantom steeds to fly back to the main camp. The young prince agrees with her plan, but he can't help but feel worried about his sister's condition. Later that night, the small group rests in the now quiet ruins, waiting for their companion to recover. The prince notices that his health has fully recovered, likely due to the massive level up he just received. He is surprised that he is not tired at all and wonders if he will have to wait like this until morning. A sudden thought then strikes him as he looks around the ancient and mysterious chamber they are in. He remembers that they are inside a ruin, which means there must be hidden treasures and weapons deeper within. Of course, he also knows that such treasures will be protected by all sorts of dangerous traps and powerful guardians. He clutches the thunder hammer, a confident smirk on his face as he realizes he is now the ruler of the ruins. The anvil's power may only work inside this ruin, but here, it grants him absolute and unmatched authority. In other words, he now has a free pass to explore the entire dungeon without any fear of its dangers. He then wakes up his loyal subordinate Carrick, who is still sleeping soundly on the cold stone floor. With a mischievous grin, the prince tells his groggy companion to come somewhere with him. As they walk deeper into the ruins, the orc nervously asks if it is okay to just enter like this. The prince reassures him and then points out that a ruin like this must contain some decent weapons. As soon as he opens the door to the next chamber, his loyal subordinate lets out a terrified gasp. He points with a trembling finger, warning the prince about a huge monster lying dormant on the floor. The youth calmly explains that it is an arc golem in the form of a griffin, one of the dungeon's powerful guardians. He internally notes that if they had entered normally, they would have likely been killed by this powerful creature. Carrick admits he would rather not fight something so menacing, but the prince just teases him for being a coward. A moment later, the orc's fear turns to excitement as he finds a massive treasure vault filled with riches. He holds up a piece of golden armor, exclaiming that it looks like a high-quality piece of equipment. The prince agrees, noting the faint magical aura and confirming that it is indeed a powerful magic armor. He then asks his loyal subordinate if he wants to take it, much to the orc's delighted surprise. With a smile, the young man says it is too big for him anyway, and Carrick gratefully accepts the generous gift. The prince then picks up a handful of ancient gold coins, deciding to store all the useful items in his inventory. He tells his companion to take anything else he wants as he continues to look around the vast treasure room. As he scans the room, his eyes suddenly fall upon a large, ornate chest, and he wonders what it could contain. He opens the chest, but finds nothing inside except for a single, small button at the bottom. He presses it, and a section of the far wall suddenly begins to glow and retract with a low rumble. A hidden doorway is revealed, leading into a dark, secret chamber he had not noticed before. A wide, excited grin spreads across his face as he realizes there must be something special hidden here. He confidently steps into the secret passage, his footsteps echoing in the dark and silent corridor. After a short walk, he emerges into a wide, open space at the heart of the hidden chamber. He looks around the massive room, and his eyes immediately lock onto a single object in the center. A powerful artifact floats above a pedestal, radiating a familiar and overwhelmingly powerful dark aura. He instantly recognizes the mana, a sense of familiarity washing over him as he stares at the object. Even though he has never seen it before, its name automatically comes to his mind, as if he has always known it. He looks up at the floating artifact, his voice filled with a mix of awe and reverence as he names it. It is Enkidu's gauntlet, also known as Earthshaker, one of the most powerful artifacts in the entire world. The legendary weapon floats silently, its immense power contained within its ancient, armored form. The aura of conquest that now flows through him is resonating with the legendary gauntlet. He feels an irresistible pull toward the artifact, a powerful connection that seems to be calling out to him. But as he reaches for it, a series of notifications appear, warning him that his stats are all insufficient. He is shocked, realizing that even with his recent level-ups, he still is not strong enough to handle the gauntlet. Despite the warnings, the powerful artifact continues to glow, its intense aura reaching out to him. A new notification then appears, informing him that the Earthshaker has acknowledged him as its master. The gauntlet's user is then changed to his name, much to his utter surprise and confusion. A brilliant flash of golden light envelopes his hand as the Earthshaker materializes and fuses with his arm. The prince is momentarily blinded by the intense power, feeling the ancient artifact becoming a part of him. He stares in amazement as the gauntlet forms around his hand, and a notification confirms a massive stat boost. He can't believe how much his stats have increased just by equipping the powerful legendary artifact. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he imagines how much stronger he will become as his level increases. He is thrilled with his new acquisition, realizing he has found an even better item than he could have ever expected. Enkidu's gauntlet is now his, a powerful weapon that will undoubtedly change the course of his journey. Suddenly, Carrick's voice startles him, and he quickly turns around, trying to hide the glowing gauntlet. He is shocked to see his subordinate standing there, and the orc reveals he saw everything, including the disappearing glove. The prince feels a bead of sweat run down his cheek, worried that his secret about the inventory has been exposed. But Carrick just tells him not to worry, understanding that it would be troublesome if others found out. With a reassuring grin, he promises to keep the prince's secret, even if a knife is held to his throat. The youth is touched by his subordinate's loyalty, and Carrick then asks if they are ready to head back. The prince agrees, a mischievous smile on his face as he thinks about the amazing treasures they have found. He feels a sense of accomplishment and excitement as he and his loyal companion prepare to leave the secret chamber. They walk back through the treasure vault, their footsteps echoing in the now quiet and empty ruins. But just as they are about to leave, the prince suddenly stops, his eyes locking onto something in the distance. He calls out to his companion, urging him to look at something he has just noticed among the piles of treasure. With a wide, excited grin, he points to a small, glowing potion, telling Carrick it is exactly what they need right now. The scene then shifts to Felicia, who is shown drinking the potion, its magical properties healing her exhausted body. She slowly opens her eyes, the effects of the powerful potion taking hold and restoring her energy. The prince leans over her, a look of concern on his face as he asks if she is feeling any better. He is relieved to see her awake, and she looks around in confusion, asking what happened. Caitlin explains that her brother brought a magic recovery potion, a proud smile on her face. Felicia is still disoriented, wondering where he could have possibly found such a rare item. The young man playfully reminds her that they are in a ruin, a place filled with all sorts of treasures. She looks at him for a moment, then realizes he is right, feeling a bit foolish for forgetting. With a confident smirk, he tells her that he is the ruler of these ruins, so she has nothing to worry about. He reassures her that she just needs to rest, and her magic power will be fully recovered when she wakes up. The prince is surprised when she suddenly thanks him, her voice soft and her cheeks slightly flushed. He is taken aback by her sincere gratitude, and she repeats her thanks with a genuine and warm smile. The next morning, the small group finally returns to the main camp, the sun shining brightly in the sky. General Vandal greets them with a wide, triumphant grin, exclaiming that they have finally arrived. He slaps Carrick on the back, congratulating everyone on their hard work and successful mission. Chris then appears, clearing his throat awkwardly as he looks at his younger siblings. The prince is surprised to see his older brother, who still seems a bit embarrassed by their earlier disagreement. He struggles to find the right words, clearly not used to admitting when he is wrong or praising others, but he finally manages to compliment his sister, telling her that it was a splendid performance. She just smiles, brushing off his praise with a confident and slightly smug look on her face. The young prince watches their heartwarming interaction, a genuine and happy smile on his face. Chris tells them to rest well, saying he will handle the finishing touches, but the prince is confused. The older brother explains that remnants of the enemy tribe are still scattered around the area. The youth considers this, thinking to himself that it sounds like he is about to get a 2-week vacation, but his sister Caitlin suddenly grabs him, angrily telling him that it is certainly not a vacation for him. She then says with a sly smile that her younger brother has things he needs to do with her instead. The young prince is caught off guard as a powerful blue aura blast slams directly into his hands. His sister's fist, crackling with raw energy, connects with immense force, sending a shockwave through the air. She shouts his name, warning him to pull himself together, or he will suffer the consequences. He collapses to the ground, completely exhausted from the relentless assault, as she urges him to get back up. Lying there, he admits to himself that while he was prepared, the training for the beast fist art is seriously brutal. It becomes clear that the something his sister had planned for him was this very intense and unforgiving training. He recalls that for the first 5 days, it felt like all he did was get beaten up relentlessly. But after a full week, his senses sharpened, and he could finally start to see her lightning, fast punches coming. Now, on the 11th day, the training continues with even greater intensity, leaving craters in the ground. Showing a massive improvement in his skill, he successfully intercepts one of her strikes mid-air. His sister smirks impressed, acknowledging that he is starting to keep up with her pace quite well. The young prince grins back confidently, stating that after all the beatings he has taken, it is about time. He reflects on his progress, realizing that his beast fist art and aura have both reached level 5. Pleased with his development, his sister declares that he is finally ready to begin learning the beast god fist art. He looks up in disbelief and excitement, while she admits that she has never seen anyone learn this fast before. The prince's eyes gleam with anticipation, realizing he's about to learn the lycanthropes, secret technique. She takes his hands, explaining that she will now teach him a completely new way to wield his aura. Holding his hands firmly, she tells him not to miss a single detail and to follow her movements carefully. He looks at her with complete focus and determination, confirming that he understands and is ready. A brilliant blue aura begins to emanate from their clasped hands as the next stage of his training begins. A massive pillar of blue aura erupts around them, shaking the ground as she channels her energy into him. He closes his eyes, completely immersed in the sensation, feeling his sister's powerful aura flowing through him. Her energy guides him, and he notes that it feels similar to the beast fist art, but also fundamentally different and much deeper. He learns that aura is the force of life. When pushed to its extreme, it becomes akin to the power of the soul and of conquest. It is a ferocious and domineering power, one meant to conquer others and force their obedience. The young man floats in a void of pure energy, wondering if this is the true nature of aura. His newfound understanding causes the energy to burst outward once more, kicking up leaves and dust around them. As his comprehension deepens, notifications confirm that his beast fist art and aura levels have both increased. His sister looks at him with a proud and amazed expression, calling his name in admiration for his rapid growth. He stands confidently in his new power as a notification confirms he has finally acquired the beast god fist art. Looking at his hand, he considers his two new powerful assets, the beast god fist art and his earthshaker gauntlet. He clenches his fist, feeling a surge of power as the aura responds instantly to his will, forming sharp points. The prince and his sister stand facing each other as the powerful energy now swirls calmly around them. Another notification appears, showing he has reached level 14. He smiles, feeling stronger than ever before. He declares that this is where his journey truly begins, while Carrick watches silently from the trees nearby. The loyal orc observes his master's incredible growth with a stoic and satisfied expression on his face. The scene then shifts to the next morning, with the sun rising brightly over their military encampment. Inside a large tent, the prince and his sister are having a quiet meal together after their intense training. He remembers something and decides to ask his sister a question about Felicia to understand the situation better. He asks why the relationship between Felicia and their older brother Chris is so strained. He thinks to himself that Felicia is a key ally he needs on his side, but her strained relationship with Chris could be a problem. His sister clarifies that they are not on bad terms, but they definitely seem distant from one another. She continues, saying there was no direct incident between them, which makes the young prince wonder what the real reason is. She hesitantly suggests it has something to do with Chris and someone named Sylvan, a name that surprises her brother. She lightly scolds him for saying the name so carelessly, and he quickly apologizes, explaining he was just caught off guard. He then remembers who Sylvan is. Felicia's twin brother, Sylvan Doomblade, was a troublesome opponent in his past life. The prince puts the pieces together, realizing the core of the problem must be between his older brother and Sylvan. Just then, their conversation is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Chris, who startles both of them. His sister nervously calls out their older brother's name, while the prince asks why he returned so early. Chris tells them to pack their things, explaining the mission ended faster than expected, and they are leaving that afternoon. The young prince is confused by the sudden news, and asks his older brother where they are heading next. The blonde warrior just smirks, finding the question silly, and reminds him that they need to report their success. Outside, they say their goodbyes to General Vandal, who thanks the royal siblings for all their hard work. The orc general tells the ninth prince that he looks forward to the day they will meet again. The young man smiles back, confidently telling Vandal that he will be waiting for that day as well. With the farewells concluded, Chris asks if everyone is ready to leave, and his younger brother confirms. The older brother then announces with a determined grin that their destination is the Demon King's castle. The scene shifts to a massive, dark castle, its Gothic spires reaching into a blood-red sky. Inside a vast throne room, a lone, powerful figure is seated on a throne, shrouded in shadows. The figure is revealed to be the Demon King, silently waiting with an overwhelming presence. The journey back to the Demon King's castle is a relatively simple one, as the group travels swiftly through the dark forest. Their plan is to reach a special teleportation circle capable of long-distance spatial leaps to return directly to the castle. The trip to the nearest circle is estimated to take 3 days, a journey that involves camping in the wilderness without any stops at inns. As they settle down for another night under the open sky, the prince feels a little nervous about arriving at the palace the next day. He thinks about the current political climate, which is dominated by 3 main factions vying for power. The first is led by the second prince, Zephy Radnaros, who is known as the Demon King's second son and his worst enemy. The other 2 major players are the first prince, Michael Radnaros, and the fourth princess, Anastasia Nekrian. In the intense struggle for the throne, birth order means nothing, as only those with great achievements and superior ability can rise to the top. He knows that Baikal and Zephyr are full brothers who inherited immense strength from their mother's side, the Draconian clan. The prince considers that the more moderate Baikal would probably be a better heir, but he knows such a choice is ultimately meaningless. He is certain that after he arrives at the castle, the entire power structure is going to change forever. Because of what he knows is coming, the young man resolves to prepare for every possible eventuality. His primary goal is to raise his level enough so he can finally wield the full power of his Earthshaker gauntlet. He decides to utilize his new strength by activating his King's Knights skill, and a notification confirms a knight order has been created. He is surprised to find that the skill functions like a guild system, complete with buffs, training, and a summoning ability. Covering his mouth in shock, the young man realizes that this is a seriously overpowered skill. He excitedly wonders how strong it will become as it levels up, but his thoughts are interrupted when an orc finds him. A green-skinned orc named Karik yells at the prince, asking why he is still awake when he needs to sleep for their early departure. The guard urges him to hurry back to camp, but the prince just smiles, thinking that Karak has shown up at the perfect time. With a mischievous glint in his eyes, he asks the orc if he would like to participate in a little experiment. Karak, looking nervous and sweaty, stammers as he asks the prince what he wants from him. Under the bright moonlight, the young prince addresses the orc warrior by his full title. A glowing golden sword materializes from thin air, shimmering with a holy light. The prince taps Karak on the shoulder with the flat of the blade, formally appointing him as his knight. A brilliant white light envelopes the orc, who is shocked by the sudden surge of power flowing through him. He tells the prince that the feeling is strange, but not in a bad way. The orc warrior declares that his loyalty towards his master has risen, and a notification confirms his new status as Knight Commander. The young prince is thrilled, realizing his new skill is working exactly as he had hoped. Karak, however, is bewildered by the sudden overflow of strength and asks what is happening to him. With his eyes sparkling, the prince grabs the orc and asks if he wants to become the strongest of his kind. He promises to raise Karak into a mighty orc emperor, one who could even stand toe-to-toe with the dragon race. The orc guard, concerned by his master's sudden strange behavior, asks if he is feeling unwell. The scene shifts to a tall, ancient stone tower standing alone amidst a lush green forest. The group finally arrives at the teleportation circle, a large glowing platform inscribed with magical runes. Chris turns to his siblings, asking if they are ready to depart for the Demon King's castle. The 9th prince looks up at his older brother with a calm and determined expression. The entire group steps onto the platform, and a bright blue light begins to emanate from the teleportation circle. As the magic activates, a powerful gust of wind swirls around them, their clothes whipping in the magical currents. A brilliant beam of light shoots up from the platform, enveloping them completely in its glow. In a flash of light, the prince and his companions are instantly teleported away. The prince panics for a moment, caught off guard by the disorienting feeling of teleportation. He feels like he is falling through a vortex of bright blue light, losing all sense of direction. The group lands roughly on a stone floor, and he stumbles forward, trying to regain his balance. His sister rushes to his side, asking if he is okay, and he quickly assures her that he is fine. Suddenly, someone calls out Felicia's name, and the prince looks over to see a group of women approaching her. The women greet Felicia warmly, telling her they have been waiting and complimenting her beauty. Felicia stands with her arms crossed, a slight smile on her face as she is surrounded by her admirers. The young prince observes the scene, thinking to himself that it feels like he is watching some kind of idol fan club. Meanwhile, other groups greet Chris and Caitlin, but the youngest prince is left completely ignored. He jokes about no one being there for him as he watches Felicia's attendants whispering amongst themselves. Standing awkwardly with Karak, he feels isolated from the other groups, who are busy catching up. The prince now understands his current, standing within the Demon King's castle, far removed from the centers of power. He smiles to himself, unbothered, as this was all within his expectations. He turns to his loyal knight, asking if he is ready for what comes next. With a determined grin, the prince declares that from this point on, they will start changing things one step at a time. He and Karak are then shown to a small, dusty room in a remote corner of the massive castle. The room is little more than a storage space, filled with old crates, barrels, and cobwebs. Karak suggests they can unpack their things there, and the prince wryly notes that at least they have a room. Karak then informs him that the official event's schedule starts tomorrow, so they have free time until then. The prince is lost in thought when his keen ears pick up a faint sound coming from behind a nearby door. A woman with purple hair introduces herself as Flora Sevensward from the Demon King's Castle Real Estate Management Bureau. The prince is surprised, asking why someone from such a high office would visit him in his rundown quarters. She explains that his public merit level has increased, making him eligible to choose a new, better residence. He then finds himself at the Office of Public Merits, where he is greeted by an official named Isabella. He confirms with her that he can receive a new residence, and the Lamia-like woman tells him he is in the right place. Isabella gestures, and a holographic display appears, showing all the details of his recent accomplishments. With his merit level raised to 5 and 15,000 points, he now has access to more facilities and a much larger monthly stipend. She informs him that he is the first to achieve so much on his very first mission, which he finds hard to believe. He eagerly asks her to show him the available residences, and she readily agrees to his request. Karak is in complete shock when he sees their new home, stammering the prince's name in disbelief. They stand before a massive, ornate mansion with a golden gate, a stark contrast to their previous small room. Inside, they are greeted by Flora, who says they arrived earlier than she expected. Now dressed as a head maid, she bows and states that it is an honor to serve him starting today. Karak whispers to the prince, confused, asking why the real estate agent is now their maid. The young man calmly explains that he hired her using his accumulated merit points. He tries to explain the system to his knight, but Karak just thinks his master is talking nonsense again. The next day, the prince and Karak are getting ready for the official event in their new mansion. The orc, dressed in a butler's uniform, nervously tells the prince he keeps feeling the need to use the restroom. The prince, annoyed, tells his knight to just go already, complaining that his nervousness is rubbing off on him. He then sees his sister and Felicia, both in stunning dresses, and compliments them on how amazing they look. Felicia smiles, satisfied, remarking that all her effort in picking the outfits paid off. The prince's sister blushes and compliments him in return, telling him he looks great in his formal suit. He thanks them both, a slight blush on his cheeks, and says that they both look amazing as well. His sister beams with happiness at the compliment, while Felicia simply accepts it as a matter of fact. Chris approaches his younger brother, reminding him that this is his very first audience ceremony. The older prince places a supportive hand on his shoulder, telling him that today, he is the star of the show. The young prince looks at his brother with newfound confidence, ready to face the challenges ahead. As he walks towards the throne room, he knows that some might dismiss his achievements as mere luck, but he is determined to prove them wrong, confident that soon, everyone will have their eyes on him. He plans to make everyone re-evaluate the worthless prince they once dismissed, as he confidently walks forward. The grand throne room is filled with courtiers and nobles, all gathered to witness the ceremony. Chris kneels before the throne, announcing his presence as the seventh prince before the great ruler. The Demon King sits silently on his golden throne, his imposing figure casting a long shadow over the room. A close-up reveals the stern and powerful face of Demon King Mitra, a ruler with immense authority. An attendant announces that they will now report the achievements of the princes and princesses. The young prince looks at his father, the man known as Demon King Mitra, and a sudden realization hits him. He remembers a crucial detail he had forgotten about the man who is the father to all the demon children. The prince recalls that his father is the one person in the entire castle who must never be underestimated. A wave of immense pressure suddenly washes over him, causing his eyes to widen in shock and fear. The overwhelming aura of the Demon King forces the young prince to his knees, his body trembling under the immense power. A vision of a goddess appears in his mind, telling him to conquer. An orb of golden light forms in his chest, radiating a powerful aura. The Demon King's voice echoes in his thoughts, reminding him that he too is a king. The prince struggles against the immense pressure, determined to overcome even his father's powerful gaze. Gritting his teeth, he fights to subdue the suffocating pressure under his own will. He rises to his feet, enveloped in a brilliant golden light that pushes back against the darkness. With his eyes glowing, he fully embraces his own power of conquest. The Demon King looks down at his son with a hint of surprise and approval. Breaking the suffocating silence, the ruler calls out the ninth prince's name. The prince looks up, sweat dripping down his face as he meets his father's gaze. He remains on one knee, his body still trembling but his spirit unbroken. The Demon King tells his son that he looks forward to seeing his future achievements. The entire court is stunned into silence, completely shocked by what they just witnessed. They all wonder why the Demon King would single out the ninth prince, who has always been overlooked. It was a simple statement of expectation, but it was one no one had ever heard from the ruler before. That simple phrase, coming from the Demon King himself, made it an invaluable declaration of recognition. The prince looks up with renewed determination, vowing to live up to his father's expectations. He finishes his first audience, leaving a powerful and lasting impression on everyone present. Back in his mansion, Karak frantically tries to wake the prince up from a deep sleep. The orc hands him a letter, explaining that it just arrived from the Office of Public Merits. Karak impatiently asks the prince to read the letter out loud, but the young man is still processing the news. He explains that his father, the Demon King himself, has given him a personal mission. Later, he discusses the mission with his siblings, revealing it is a monster extermination task to subjugate the Cassius herd. His sister recalls that she and Chris went to the Inger Plains for training once, and that subjugating the Cassius herd is almost an annual event. She says she would go with him, but they have their own schedules to follow, though she is confident her brother can manage on his own. The young prince listens quietly as his siblings discuss his mission. Chris warns his younger brother that from now on, people in the castle will start paying close attention to him. He explains that some will try to get closer to him, drawn by his newfound favor with the king. Others, however, will become wary of him, seeing him as a new rival in the endless power struggles of the court. The prince understands, knowing that even the powerful Prince Zephyr was never addressed by name during an audience. Chris offers his full support, telling his brother to ask for help anytime he needs it, which the younger prince gratefully accepts. The older brother also tells him to see Felicia before he leaves, as she has something to give him. Felicia explains that he will need good mounts to travel through Centaur territory and offers him 2 large lizard-like creatures. The prince thanks her for the mounts, appreciating her thoughtful gift. She then hands him a small, unexpected item, and he wonders what else she could be giving him. He is shocked to see a beautiful necklace with a glowing blue crystal, recognizing it as a dark elf's tear. The prince is amazed that she is giving him one of the dark elves' sacred treasures, a feat normally achieved only by killing her. Felicia explains that the Dark Elves are a proud race who never forget a kindness or an act of vengeance. She then pulls him into a warm hug, telling him to take care of himself and return safely. The prince is flustered by the unexpected gesture, as he had never imagined Felicia would act so affectionately towards him. He accidentally calls her Felicia's nickname, Sia, which causes her to push him away in embarrassment. She quickly dismisses it as nothing, flustered by the slip-up, and the prince assumes she just realized how awkward the hug was. He says his goodbyes and steps into the teleportation circle with Karak and their mounts. As the light of the portal fades, Felicia stands alone, watching them go. With a soft smile, she quietly accepts his farewell, her earlier embarrassment fading away. The scene shifts to the Enger Plains, where a beam of light descends from the sky. The prince, Karak, and their mounts materialize from the teleportation magic, arriving at their destination. Karak looks around, a bit disoriented, and asks if they have arrived, to which the prince confirms. They are immediately greeted by a woman who addresses the young man as the 9th prince. She introduces herself as Karma, a ranger who has been assigned to be their guide for the mission. The prince introduces himself in return, observing that she has the upper body of a human and the lower half of a beast. She bows respectfully, honored to be in his service, and he correctly identifies her as a member of the satyr race. With the introductions complete, Karma suggests they get moving right away. The group travels across the vast, arid plains, their mounts kicking up dust as they run. Karma explains that it will take at least 2 days to reach the center settlement, and she plans to travel with few breaks. The prince asks if there are any other soldiers with them, and she explains it's just the 2 of them for now, due to the mission's urgency. She reassures him that with the centaurs on their side, they won't be outnumbered, so it will be more of a group fight. The prince considers this, realizing that the real problem will be their choice of weapons for a potential mounted battle. As they ride, he thinks to himself about their strategy and equipment needs. Suddenly, a strange sound catches his attention, and he tells Karma to hold on while he investigates. Out of nowhere, a massive claw, like a tack, tears through the ground, heading straight for the group. Karma quickly dodges out of the way, her senses on high alert. She looks on in disbelief, a bead of sweat running down her face as she realizes what is happening. From a nearby cliff, she spots the Cassius herd charging towards them, wondering how they were found so soon. A pack of monstrous, shadowy wolves with glowing eyes and sharp teeth rush towards their prey. A terrified centaur screams as one of the beasts lunges at him, its fangs bared. The centaur cries out in fear, completely defenseless against the sudden and ferocious attack. Before the wolf can land its attack, a lizard-like mount leaps in, carrying another centaur to safety. The wolf's attack misses its target, crashing into the ground with a powerful impact. The rescued centaur looks around in confusion, while the prince calmly sits on his mount, observing the scene. The prince smirks, noting that the welcoming party seems to have arrived earlier than expected. He clenches his hand, and the Earthshaker gauntlet materializes in a brilliant flash of golden light. Unfazed by the ambush, he declares that he was itching for a fight anyway. The rescued centaur asks who he is, and the prince confidently challenges the monstrous wolves to attack him. The alpha of the pack lets out a ferocious roar, its eyes glowing with a menacing red light. The massive wolf charges forward, its speed and power far greater than the others. The prince grins, identifying the charging beast as the boss of the pack. Karma and Karak rush to his side, scolding him for dashing in alone and warning him of the danger. He tells them he is fine, and to just watch quietly as he prepares to face the alpha wolf head-on. He leaps into the air, ready to test the beast god fist. With his gauntlet glowing, the prince meets the charging alpha wolf head-on. The massive beast lets out a deafening roar, its sharp fangs ready to tear him apart. The prince channels his energy into his fist, his eyes glowing with determination. He unleashes a devastating attack called the Fist of Explosion, a powerful blast of concussive force. Karak and Karma watch in stunned silence, completely shocked by the prince's incredible power. The attack lands directly on the alpha wolf, causing a massive explosion that sends blood flying everywhere. The prince stands over the fallen beast, his glowing gauntlet still crackling with residual energy, The other wolves in the pack stare in disbelief, their alpha defeated in a single, devastating blow. They whimper in fear and quickly retreat, their morale completely shattered. The prince looks at his gauntlet, wondering if it amplified his aura to produce such a destructive attack. He smiles, realizing that the power is almost on par with his sister, Caitlin. The rescued centaur thanks the prince for saving him, amazed that he took down a Cassius with one strike. The centaur introduces himself as Swift Wind and offers to guide them to their settlement. As they travel, the prince's gauntlet absorbs a purple orb of energy from the defeated wolf. They finally arrive at the Angel Plains Centaur settlement, a large village of tents and yurts. Swift Wind explains that 4 centaur tribes dwell in the plains: Fierce Wind, Heavy Rain, and Rough Night. He tells them that the Raging Flame tribe is the most powerful, and their chieftain also serves as the high chieftain of all the tribes. A powerful-looking centaur with red hair and a beard greets them, welcoming them after their long journey. He introduces himself as Savage Eyes, the high chieftain of the centaurs. The prince recognizes the name, knowing that in his past life, Savage Eyes was a formidable enemy. Carrick whispers to the prince that the chieftain's glare is deadly, but the young man confidently introduces himself. The centaur chieftain looks down at him, his gaze sharp and intense. The prince, unfazed, asks for the chieftain's assessment of the current situation. Inside a tent, Savage Eyes explains that the situation is not good, pointing to a map on the table. He reveals that the Cassius herd has moved south much earlier than usual this year. Scouts are currently observing the area, though some believe a small part of the herd may have simply gotten lost. He declares that in 3 days, warriors from all 4 tribes will gather to crush the beasts. The prince remembers that in the game, Savage Eyes was an unrecruitable NPC, but he hopes things will be different this time. He agrees to wait for the warriors to gather, and the chieftain then changes the subject. Savage Eyes asks if it is true that the prince smashed a Cassius's skull with a single punch. The prince offers to show him his power later, hoping he can make the chieftain an ally, just like he did with his siblings. The centaur leader accepts his offer, saying he will look forward to it. That night, the prince walks through the center village, noticing the curious stares of the locals. The villagers whisper amongst themselves, recognizing him as the one who defeated a Cassius with a single blow. Karak jokes that the prince is quite popular, and the young man proudly agrees. He boasts that it is all thanks to his natural charm and virtue, but immediately regrets his cheesy comment. Karak wisely suggests that his master should get some rest. The prince lies in bed, peacefully sleeping after a long and eventful day. Suddenly, his eyes snap open as he senses something strange. He sits up in shock, his Earthshaker gauntlet glowing with a bright green light as it absorbs more energy. He is confused, wondering when the gauntlet attached itself to his arm. A mysterious, blindfolded woman with green hair appears before him, calling him by his full name. She floats in the air, her presence at the real and powerful, and tells him she requires his assistance. The prince, still in his pajamas, looks up at the strange woman and asks who she is. She introduces herself as the fragment of the Watcher Ankle. She then reveals her true name, Green Wind, as her blindfold disappears, showing her gentle green eyes. The prince recognizes the name, shocked to be in the presence of such a legendary being. He recalls that Green Wind was one of the nature spirits worshipped by the centaurs and satyrs. According to the lore of his past life, it is thanks to her power that the Anger Plains maintain their vibrant greenery. Suddenly, the world around him shifts, and he finds himself floating in a lush, green landscape with the spirit. Green Wind tells him that this place is her home. It is the sacred ground where the fragment of her origin, the Observer Ankle, resides. The prince is stunned by this revelation, his mind racing to process the information. He realizes that if she is talking about the Observer Ankle, she must mean one of the 6 legendary Elder Dragons. Elder Dragons were god-like beings that players could never encounter in the game. He finds it hard to believe that he has obtained Enkidu's Earthshaker and now encountered a fragment of ankle in such a short time. Green Wind interrupts his thoughts, warning him that monsters from the north are heading for her home. Their goal is to steal the verdure of the plains, destroying her home and devouring her very soul. She tells him that he is the one who can protect this sacred place, but he is hesitant. She reminds him that he has already obtained the power of Enkidu, a power strong enough to face any threat. Greenwind reassures the prince, telling him that the fragment of Enkel will make him even stronger. He is suddenly transported back to his room, finding himself standing on the floor as the vision ends. In his hand, he holds a glowing green crystal, a token from the spirit that will surely grant him the centaur's aid. He rushes out of his tent, determined to convince the chieftain of the impending danger. He explains that Lord Greenwind is in danger and that the Cassius herd will soon attack a small temple to the northeast. The centaur leader is skeptical, hesitant to march his men out based on the prince's word alone. The chieftain's eyes widen in surprise as he sees the proof in the young man's hand. The prince holds up the glowing green crystal, identifying it as a sacred relic of Lord Greenwind. Convinced by the undeniable proof, Savage Eyes asks the prince what he must do. The centaur warriors quickly assemble, their hooves thundering on the grassy plains. An army of archers and spearmen stands ready, prepared to defend their sacred land. The prince looks at his map, finally locating the hidden temple. A beautiful, ancient temple, bathed in a soft green light, stands nestled in a clearing. One of the centaurs spots the temple and points it out to the chieftain. As they approach, they are horrified to see a massive horde of Cassius wolves already gathered before the temple. The prince wonders how the monsters could have possibly found Greenwind's hidden home. He realizes that there must be something else going on, a piece of the puzzle he is missing. The centaur chieftain notes that the number of enemies is far greater than he had anticipated and asks the prince for a plan. The young man recalls Greenwind's words that he must gain power from Enkel's fragment inside the temple. He tells the chieftain that he is going to the temple and orders them to keep the monsters at bay. The prince calls out to his companions, and they immediately respond, ready for his command. Savage Eyes raises his sword and rallies his warriors, ordering them not to let a single monster enter the temple. With a fierce expression, the centaur chieftain commands all units to prepare for battle. The centaur warriors let out a mighty war cry and charge forward to meet the enemy head-on. A line of archers takes aim, their bows drawn and ready to unleash a deadly volley. A shower of arrows rains down on the charging Cassius herd, piercing through their tough hides. The centaur infantry, with their swords and spears ready, clash with the front lines of the monster horde. A warrior leaps into the air, gracefully cutting down two wolves with a single, fluid motion. Karak reminds the prince of their objective, and the young man confirms they just need to get to the temple. His loyal companions vow to clear a path for him through the chaotic battlefield. Karak lets out a fierce battle cry, swinging his massive axe with incredible force. He carves a path through the wolves, his powerful strikes sending them flying. The prince watches his team, impressed by their skill and teamwork as they fight their way forward. They are almost at the temple, but the prince's path is suddenly blocked. A massive wooden club swings down towards him, catching him completely by surprise. The attack is incredibly fast and powerful, launched by a giant, muscular beast. The prince is sent flying from his mount, unable to dodge the devastating blow. A massive minotaur-like creature lets out a triumphant roar, its eyes burning with rage. The beast stands over the fallen prince, ready to deliver the final blow. The young man curses himself for letting his guard down, knowing he is in a very dangerous situation. Just as the Minotaur is about to strike, Carrick intercepts the attack with his axe. The prince looks up to see his loyal knight standing over him, asking if he is all right. Karak tells his master to get up, reminding him that it is still too early to be sleeping on the job. The massive orc heroically stands between the prince and the Minotaur, ready to defend his master. He lets out a grunt of pain as he struggles to hold back the powerful beast. The prince smirks, teasing his knight for putting on a cool act, but already being at his limit. He raises his hand and casts a powerful buff, yelling under the king's flag. A brilliant golden light envelopes Carrick, and he lets out a powerful roar as he is filled with newfound strength. With his knight now empowered, the prince declares that the real attack is about to begin. Karak, now glowing with golden energy, easily overpowers the Minotaur, sending it staggering back. He lets out a mighty war cry, his voice echoing across the battlefield as he unleashes his full power. The Minotaur roars in pain and shock as Karek's relentless assault overwhelms it. With a final powerful swing of his axe, the orc brings the massive beast to its knees. He raises his axe high and brings it down, smashing the ground with immense force. Karak tells the prince to leave the rest to him and go to the temple, and the young man entrusts the battle to his knight. The prince runs towards the ancient temple, his cape billowing behind him as he sprints across the grassy field. He enters the dimly lit temple, calling out for Greenwind, his voice echoing in the silent hall. A gentle voice tells him that the armament of Enkidu will guide him, and his gauntlet begins to glow with green energy. He looks at his glowing hand, realizing that the energy is pointing him deeper into the temple. A path of green light and leaves appears, leading him toward the heart of the sacred ground. He follows the path and finds a massive, ancient tree, glowing with an intense green aura. He stares in awe, leaves and particles of light swirling around him as he takes in the magnificent sight. A gnarled, wooden hand reaches out from the tree, offering him a glowing green object. The prince is speechless, his eyes wide with amazement as he recognizes the item. It is a dragon heart, the source of magic that every dragon possesses. He finally understands what Greenwind meant by a fragment of ankle. The spirit herself appears, explaining that the Anger Plains have been kept peaceful by the magic of the observer, ankle. She reveals that the temple is the center of that magic, and if it is destroyed, the peace will be broken. Greenwind pleads with him to awaken the ancient magic of ankle that remains in the temple to stop the monsters. Meanwhile, outside, Savage Eyes rallies his warriors, ordering them not to fall back and to protect the temple at all costs. Karak fights with incredible ferocity, his empowered axe cleaving through the monsters with ease. Karma, surrounded by wolves, unleashes her own power, her hands glowing with a bright blue energy. Greenwind tells the prince that she is counting on him to protect the plains and her children. She entrusts him with the last of her magic, her form beginning to fade as she transfers her power. A brilliant flash of green light envelops the prince, and he is suddenly transported to a different place. He looks around in confusion, finding himself in a strange, otherworldly space. Before him stands a colossal, majestic creature with 3 eyes, massive wings, and intricate antlers. The prince stares in utter awe, realizing he is in the presence of the legendary observer, Ankle. A powerful, ethereal voice tells him to take the power he seeks. A surge of green energy flows into the prince, his body glowing as he absorbs the ancient magic. Back on the battlefield, a massive pillar of green light erupts from the temple, bathing the area in its glow. Karak and the others look on in confusion, wondering what is happening with the prince. Suddenly, massive roots and vines burst from the ground, entangling the charging monsters. The ground cracks and shifts as the ancient magic of the forest awakens. Giant, sentient trees, known as trents, rise from the earth, their eyes glowing with a menacing green light. The Cassius wolves find themselves surrounded by these powerful nature guardians. The trents attack with incredible force, their wooden limbs smashing the monsters with ease. The battlefield is quickly turned in their favor as the awakened forest fights alongside the centaurs. Inside the temple, Greenwind declares that Ankle's ancient magic has finally been awakened. She thanks the prince for his help, her voice filled with gratitude. The prince reaches out and touches the dragon heart, his hand glowing with the same green energy. As he absorbs the power, a halo of light forms above Greenwind's head. The spirit is shocked, wondering why Ankle's magic power is flowing into the prince instead of returning to the land. The young man is overcome by the immense power that invades his body as he absorbs the ancient magic. Inside the temple, an overwhelming energy takes over everything around the prince. The kid can't handle the power surge and falls backward, passing out cold. He wakes up slowly, a bit groggy and wondering what the heck just happened. Looking around, he He remembers he was just chatting with Green Wind. Just then, the forest spirit floats into view and asks if her master is okay. She explains that Enkel's consciousness, which popped up last night, was so strong it knocked him out. Suddenly, Greenwind's eyes glow, and she announces he's the conqueror knight destined by the king. A dragon image looms behind her as the spirit explains his power is to conquer and rule everything. The young man is shocked and wonders how Enkel already knew about his unique power. Greenwind then snaps back to normal, calls him her permanent master, and says there's more to reveal. A holographic screen pops up in front of the prince, surprising him with new intel. She reveals that in the northernmost part of the plains, there's a relic of Enkel called the Observer. The spirit explains it's a weapon with the power of an ancient dragon, just like his gauntlet, and it's called the Shield of Life. A flashback starts from over 1,000 years ago, when Enkel gave the shield to the bravest centaur warrior. That warrior led the centaurs in many battles without a single scratch, but he wasn't invincible. While sleeping, he was attacked by a woman sent by someone who coveted the shield. Since nobody else could use the artifact, his subordinates buried him with the shield in a tomb to the north. Over time, the Shield of Life became a legend, and the Centaurs renamed it in honor of the warrior. The new name of the legendary shield was White Eagle, an incredibly powerful weapon. Greenwind confirms the name, and the prince is shook because this weapon only existed in the game's history books. The prince thinks about how not even veterans found this shield, and now he finds out it's an ancient dragon weapon. With a grin, he asks where the tome is, and Greenwind says she can track it to the far north, but the spirit explains she first needs to craft a replacement component for herself. The kid asks how long that'll take, and she replies it should be ready in about 2 days thanks to him. Excited, the young man realizes they can head out soon, and even though it's far, the trip is totally doable. He's determined to go because, with the White Eagle, everything would be easy mode from there on out. The scene then shifts to the outside of the Holy Temple during the day. Outside, the prince thinks about how to justify the trip north as part of the subjugation mission. The problem is the Demon King's castle will detect the protective magic and send experts to investigate. If the report is made today, he calculates the experts will arrive in 1 week max. He decides it's better to bolt before that, but Savage Eyes interrupts him with news. The Centaur chief warns that someone from the castle has arrived, leaving the prince surprised by the unexpected visit. The kid stands there frozen while the sun shines through the trees. Suddenly, a white-haired woman appears and asks why he's making that face. She approaches with her squad and asks if he saw someone he shouldn't have. He recognizes her and calls out to his sister Felicia, asking what she's doing there. A giant orc then tells them to say hello first, leaving the young man confused by the situation. A green-skinned girl then bows and formally greets the 9th prince. She introduces herself as Daphne, the daughter of the 5th consort named Echo. The MC recognizes the name and remembers Daphne is a dryad born as a druid. The prince remembers that Daphne is one of the 3 consort's daughters who must be protected at all costs. Felicia explains she's a capable druid and can help with the mission related to the guardian spirit. With that, the young man realizes the girl's importance and decides he needs to make a good impression on her. He then asks his sister what she's doing there, since her mission was in the Zishuka Mountains. The lady steps closer and warns him that he's starting to draw way too much attention. She says the mission wasn't that hard, but finishing it in 2 days instead of 2 weeks was shocking. Plus, so many weird events happened that everyone got worried about his safety. The kid stares at her and asks if that's why she came all the way out here to find him. A bit embarrassed, she says it wasn't just that, but also because of the temple magic and the monsters. He smiles, noticing she has a warm side, and thanks her for her concern. Then Felicia changes the subject and asks what his plans are for the future. The young man says he's going north to hunt down Cassius remnants, but his real goal is the White Eagle. At that moment, the center chief declares he's coming along since it makes sense for him to join. The kid is a bit surprised by the warrior's offer, but ends up agreeing with the idea. Felicia decides to tag along too, saying it's better to investigate live Cassius than dead ones. He thinks his excuse to go north just turned into a legit mission for everyone there. Karak watches the situation with a serious face, sensing things are about to get messy. The scene skips ahead a few days, showing a mountainous landscape under a clear sky. Suddenly, a Cassius wolf appears, roaring menacingly at the group. Karak and the other warriors prep for combat. Karak smiles, satisfied, because just as he expected, things were about to get complicated. The orca's instincts were right as a pack of Cassius wolves emerges to attack the group. Immediately, the elf and centaur warriors get into battle formation to fight the beasts. Suddenly, one of the wolves charges straight at the prince, who braces for impact. But the young man dodges easily, wondering where these creatures suddenly came from. He's confused because he thought they wiped out all the monsters last time. To make matters worse, winged creatures looking like gargoyles show up flying in the sky. The MC recognizes them as geists and realizes this is going to be a troublesome group to fight. With a green glow in his eyes, he says the enemies aren't the only ones who can fly. Then the kid activates Wind Blessing and starts floating, his body lighter and faster. Greenwind in her fairy form is shocked and asks how he can use her magic. Ignoring the question, the prince flies at high speed toward the flying monsters. One of the geists stares at him in surprise, not understanding how that kid is flying right at him. The young man then uses his explosion fist and lands a powerful punch right on the monster's face. The impact is so strong the creature is launched away with devastating force. Still in the air, he stares down the other monsters and tells them to stop being annoying and disappear. The little, fairy Greenwind watches everything and questions the purpose of her existence. Meanwhile, on the ground, Daphne is alone and vulnerable in the middle of the battle chaos. She looks up with a face of pure panic as she sees one of the flying monsters. The creature dives toward her, and the girl screams in terror with nowhere to run. Luckily, Carrick arrives in time to save the green-skinned girl from the creature's attack. The orc pushes the monster away hard and yells at Daphne to focus and fight back. Meanwhile, Felicia uses powerful magic and says everything is going according to plan. With a jump, she casts her spell, crushing several monsters with giant rocks. After the dust settles, the battlefield is clear with several monsters defeated. Felicia approaches and points out a purple aura around the creatures that the kid hadn't noticed. He asks what that is, and she explains it's likely some type of curse magic. The purple aura makes them stronger, but consumes their life force and dulls their emotions. The elf concludes someone is controlling the monsters remotely with this magic. The MC is confused since they already defeated the previous manipulator and wonders who the new one is. Karak then calls his attention to Daphne, who looked super tense during the whole fight. He suggests that might have been the girl's first real battle. The young man agrees and realizes the current Daphne is way less experienced than the one he knew. The Dryad says she can feel the spirit's fear and that the sinister power gets stronger the further north they go. Greenwind confirms the suspicion, sensing a sinister energy coming from the same direction. Savage Eyes suggests they learn more by going to the northernmost point to investigate. The kid worries because he just wanted to grab the white eagle, but things got complicated. Even so, he agrees and decides to go to the observation tower on the northern border. The scene shows a tall stone tower rising under a starry sky in the darkness. The whole group gathers at the top of the tower, looking at the horizon. From the top of the tower, they spot a huge concentration of purple energy, with hundreds of enemies gathered. Felicia explains that only a high-level undead like a lich could control that many. Suddenly, Daphne falls to her knees, feeling the crushing weight of the sinister energy. Karak helps her up and asks if she's okay, and the girl stammers a yes. The elf explains the sinister energy is very direct, and since Daphne is half spirit, it hits her hard. The prince realizes their forces aren't enough against such a powerful enemy and suggests a retreat. Just then, Felicia senses something approaching, and her expression shifts to total alert. She warns everyone that someone is coming their way, leaving the kid confused by her reaction. He looks at his holographic map, wondering who could be approaching so suddenly. On the map, he sees several red enemy dots, but a group of blue dots catches his eye. Then Karak points to the sky and tells the prince to look in that direction immediately. Several gigantic fireballs are falling from the sky directly toward the tower. The MC looks up with a face of pure panic, seeing the imminent attack. He realizes it's a trap and screams for everyone to get out of the tower as fast as possible. The meteors hit the tower directly, causing a devastating explosion that destroys it completely. The structure collapses amidst fire and smoke, while the enemies watch from afar. The meteor shower continues to fall mercilessly on what's left of the observation tower. With a shocked face, the kid grinds his teeth in anger seeing the surprise attack. He lets out a yell, since it's a trap, and warns everyone to run. The tower is completely destroyed by the force of the flaming meteor's impact. Karak shouts in pain as he gets hit by tower debris, but manages to protect his teammates. Felicia jumps into action quickly, with a determined look on her face. She uses her wind control magic to cushion everyone's fall and save them from the explosion. Tower debris falls around them, but no one gets hurt thanks to the elf's intervention. After the dust settles, she asks if the prince is okay, and he confirms he is. Savage Eyes thanks the sixth princess, because they all survived thanks to her magic, but she warns it's too early for thanks, since the number of enemies is huge. They are surrounded, and the elf asks them to buy her some time to open a gap in the enemy defense. She concentrates her magic energy, preparing to cast a powerful spell. The kid watches her with admiration and concern, whispering her name. He draws a glowing dagger and says he'll buy as much time as possible too. Then the young man uses his skill under the king's banner, buffing all his allies. The warriors feel a sudden power flowing through their bodies and are shocked by the sensation. Greenwind asks if he's really going to fight, and he confirms with determination. The MC says he has no choice but to trust Felicia while she preps. His Earthshaker gauntlet materializes on his arm, glowing with immense power. He yells for everyone to get ready for battle, while a golden aura wraps around him. The group then charges together against the horde of enemies approaching fast. With a war cry, he leads the attack, determined not to retreat no matter what. Karak, buffed by the prince's skill, charges with his axe ready for combat. Savage Eyes also joins the brawl with his sword in hand, fighting bravely against the skeletons. The MC uses his explosion fist and creates a shockwave that destroys several enemies. The undead bones shatter from the force of the attack, but they keep regenerating. A floating skull with glowing purple eyes reassembles in the air, ready to attack again. The kid grinds his teeth, frustrated, because even with his attacks, the enemies won't stay down. He realizes the battle won't end at this rate, because the enemies are infinite. Meanwhile, more and more skeletons rise from the ground, ready to attack relentlessly. The young man knows he needs to quickly find the leader controlling all those creatures. Suddenly, several bolts of purple energy fall from the sky, hitting everyone on the battlefield. The prince's allies are caught off guard and scream in pain as the magic hits them. Karak tries to protect himself but gets hit and complains about the pain from the attack. The purple energy spreads everywhere, causing chaos and confusion among the warriors. One of the elves falls to the ground groaning in pain with the purple energy still in his body. Amidst the chaos, a shadowy and imposing figure rises from the debris with a purple aura. It's a giant skeleton knight with a crown and full black armor, looking intimidating. The MC spots him from afar and identifies him as the leader of that whole army. Savage Eyes takes advantage of the distraction and charges with a war cry at the giant knight. With a determined look, he jumps and lands a powerful blow with his sword. But the skeleton knight blocks the attack easily and launches him away with a single strike. Karak sees the scene and runs to help his ally, shouting the skeleton knight's name. But the orc is also hit and thrown back by the enemy's crushing force. He grinds his teeth in pain and frustration at being taken down so easily by the monster. The skeleton knight then jumps and unleashes a sword strike that cuts the ground with force. Karak manages to defend with his axe, but the impact throws him back violently. The MC takes the opening and rushes at high speed toward the giant knight. He thanks the enemy for coming to him, and says this is the end of the line for the monster. With a jump, he uses his explosion fist, landing a direct and devastating hit, but the skeleton knight blocks the attack with ease, and throws him to the ground effortlessly. The kid gets up with difficulty, coughing and wondering how strong that enemy is. He realizes the skeleton knight is on a completely different level than them. Felicia then approaches and tells him to stop fighting and rest for now. The skeleton knight watches her in silence, appearing intrigued by her appearance. The MC is surprised by his sister's intervention, not understanding what she's planning. The elf positions herself in front of him and says from now on she'll be the monster's opponent. With a defiant look, she taunts him, calling him Skull Face, and invites him to fight. She floats in the air while a glowing magic circle forms above her. Then the young woman launches a powerful energy blast that hits the skeleton knight squarely. The monster screams in pain as the attack hits, but stays standing and resists. He charges with rage, ready to counterattack and end that fight once and for all. Felicia isn't intimidated and uses her wind control to launch another energy blast. The skeleton knight charges with a powerful purple aura, ready to crush his opponent. But Felicia doesn't flinch and stares down the monster with determination. Using her blink skill, she teleports above the enemy with an energy sphere in her hands, catching him by surprise. Then the elf launches several energy spheres that hit the skeleton knight with full force. The monster screams in pain while being bombarded by the young mage's attacks. The MC watches the scene, impressed by his sister's power dominating the fight alone. Suddenly, he feels a new energy and turns to see what's happening. Daphne is by his side, wrapped in a green aura, and asks if he's okay. The Dryad then uses her Dryad's blessing, healing and buffing all her allies. Savage Eyes feels his wounds healing and his muscles strengthening with the magic. Karak is also wrapped in the green aura, feeling reinvigorated and stronger than before. The kid smiles excitedly, seeing that Daphne is finally using her unique owl buff. A notification appears informing him that he acquired the skill activation level 1. Confused, he is wrapped in blue light, and energy orbs start floating around him. Another notification pops up, saying he acquired the skill Spirit Blossom level 1. The new skill imbues him with the power of a spirit, boosting all his stats. He realizes the spirits of life and wind are inhabiting his body at the same time. The kid then attacks the skeleton knight with several golden energy strikes. Felicia gasps with fatigue, but continues to fight with her powerful magic. She uses her blink skill again, preparing for a new attack against him. Felicia creates purple energy blades that slice through the air toward the skeleton knight. She calls him a persistent bastard and tells him to just disappear already. The elf advances with a powerful attack, but the monster manages to defend with his sword. She is shocked to see her attack wasn't enough to take down the enemy. Suddenly, Karak, wrapped in a green aura, yells the skeleton knight's name. The orc charges with his axe and delivers a powerful blow that the monster blocks with difficulty. The skeleton knight is surprised by the strength of the attack, but manages to hold firm. The MC praises his sister's good work while floating beside her in the air. Felicia turns in surprise to see her brother by her side, ready for the final attack. He tells her to leave the finishing blow to him while his gauntlet glows intensely. With a yell, he uses his explosion fist and lands a devastating hit on the enemy. The skeleton knight takes the hit full on and starts to disintegrate from the force of the attack. Karak celebrates, saying they can win with this, but the prince corrects him with a smile. The orc then decides he'll deal the final blow and charges with his axe in hand. But the skeleton knight's body explodes in a cloud of purple energy, throwing everyone back. The kid yells his friend's name, worried about what might have happened. He gets hurled away by the explosion, unable to control his movement in the air. With eyes wide in shock, he can't understand what just happened. Everyone gets caught in the blast and thrown far away amidst the chaos of purple energy. Felicia looks around, not believing the enemy is breaking apart on his own. Felicia stares at the skeleton knight again, ready for a powerful counterattack. The little fairy Greenwind flies through the dark forest, looking for something important. She stops for a moment, appearing to have sensed something nearby. Then the fairy finds what she was looking for, a piece of floating land with a weapon stuck in it. It was the legendary warrior's tome, with the white eagle glowing with immense power. Back at the battle, the skeleton knight prepares to attack the fallen prince. But Felicia stops him with her magic, staring him down with a furious and determined look. She scolds him for looking away and says his opponent is her. With a scream of rage, the young mage preps an even more powerful spell. She launches her triple explosion, a massive energy blast that hits the enemy. The skeleton knight takes a direct hit, but his armor seems to absorb part of the damage. He advances through the explosion and delivers a powerful strike against the elf. She tries to use her blank skill to escape, but gets hit squarely by the attack. The monster hits her with a powerful punch, launching her away with brutal force. Felicia manages to defend with a magic barrier, but is still pushed by the impact. She grinds her teeth in frustration, seeing the enemy is much tougher than expected. The skeleton knight then launches a purple energy blast that hits her barrier. The barrier shatters on impact, and the elf is thrown back again. The monster then summons an army of undead to attack all his enemies. Amidst the chaos, the MC is lying on the ground after those attacks from the Bad of Bones. While the MC is unconscious, a mysterious voice calls him master and asks him to get up. He wakes up in a green space and wonders what's going on. Not understanding the situation, Greenwind appears and tells him to hurry up and awaken Enkel's power that's inside him. Confused, he asks how he could use Enkel's power without knowing how to activate it. An intense green light glows in the sky, and he looks up surprised by the phenomenon. The forest spirit reminds him of something important, holding a glowing artifact. Meanwhile, the young man lying on the ground mutters the word, dragon blood, seeming to have a revelation. A green and blue energy descends from the sky like a comet toward the battlefield. Felicia and the other warriors are surrounded by the undead, fighting desperately. The green energy spreads across the battlefield, healing allies and strengthening them. Felicia looks back and sees her brother lying on the ground wrapped in a green aura. He stands up with difficulty and wonders what happened, while the energy wraps around him. Suddenly, the white eagle shield appears in front of him, glowing with immense power. He asks how that's possible, and the little fairy Greenwind appears by his side. She explains she searched for the tome and managed to make the shield recognize him as the new master. The kid thanks her, and the fairy says he can praise her later because there's something more important. The skeleton knight turns to face him with his sword in hand, ready to attack. The monster charges with incredible speed, leaving a trail of purple energy behind. The prince tries to react, but the enemy is much faster than he expected. He wonders why the skeleton knight is moving so fast. The skeleton knight launches a purple energy blast that the MC blocks with the shield. Felicia screams her brother's name, worried as she sees the headless body of the enemy, but the prince appears floating in the air wrapped in green light and with the shield in hand. He holds the white eagle firmly, feeling the artifact's power flowing through him. The fairy Greenwind explains that Enkel's fragment turned his body into a hybrid. She asks if he can feel the new power that was added to his transformed body. Enkel's magic, preserved in the shield for 1,000 years, now flows through the young man's body. He feels the incredible power and says the sensation is simply amazing. The skeleton knight stares at him with his purple eyes glowing with silent fury. The MC taunts him, calling him bonehead, and invites him to continue the fight. With a confident smile, he says this time he's gonna crush him for real, no mistakes. He then launches a green energy blast from the shield that destroys several enemies nearby. The green energy spreads across the battlefield, decimating the undead army. Felicia watches the scene in shock, not believing what she's seeing. The skeleton knight roars in fury and charges with his sword raised, ready to attack. The MC uses the shield to block the attack, and the legendary weapon glows intensely. The shield then transforms into several green energy blades that rush the enemy. The blades combine to form an energy bird that flies at high speed. The skeleton knight turns to attack the bird, but the prince distracts him with a taunt. He takes the opening and uses his explosion fist, landing a hit on the monster. The skeleton knight roars in pain as he gets hit full on by the fireballs of the attack, but the prince manages to protect himself with the shield, blocking most of the damage. He then advances with a green aura emanating from his body, ready for the counterattack. With a quick move, he launches a green energy blast that hits the monster. The shield glows intensely as the energy spreads across the battlefield. The skeleton knight is hit by several green energy blades that pierce his armor. He screams in pain, feeling his body being cut by the kid's relentless attacks. The MC jumps in the air and preps his next attack with his gauntlet glowing. With a determined look, he focuses his energy for a final and devastating blow. He uses his giant piston skill and lands a powerful punch on the enemy's chest. The skeleton knight grinds his teeth in pain, feeling the crushing impact of the attack. The young man says it ends there and gets ready for the mercy kill. With a flick of his fingers, he concentrates the green energy into a single point. He fires an energy beam that pierces the monster's chest with incredible force. The skeleton knight's body starts to disintegrate as the energy consumes him. The other undead look on in shock, seeing their leader being defeated. A notification appears informing him that he defeated the boss Skeleton King Vakarova. The kid levels up twice, feeling the power flowing through his body. With a confident smile, he acquires the title Kingslayer Level 1. Felicia warns him about the Bad of Bones curse, so she suggests they run. Later that night, the group gathers around a campfire to rest and chat. Felicia asks if that's the White Eagle shield, and the prince confirms with a nod. Savage Eyes and Karak are impressed to see the weapon's legend was real. Daphne says she can feel a powerful life force coming from the shield, and that it hasn't revealed its full power yet. The MC realizes the shield is limiting its power to match him. Felicia says the shield belongs to him, and she won't report this to the castle. Savage Eyes then approaches and acknowledges the young man as the successor of the great warrior White Eagle. The Centaur chief promises they will stand by his side whenever he needs help. The kid smiles and says he'll count on their help in the future too. Suddenly, he remembers something important he had almost completely forgotten. He realizes there's still some fun time left and looks at the warrior's tomb. Inside the tomb, he finds a chest full of treasures and gold coins. But Greenwand appears and says it's not over yet because he hasn't praised her. Karak gets spooked by her appearance, and the prince apologizes for forgetting. He pats the fairy on the head and thanks her for her help in the battle. She forgives him but asks him to praise her, more to make up for forgetting. The kid agrees and praises her, saying she's the best of all and the most amazing. With the battle won and the treasure found, the incident in the north finally comes to an end. But the MC still feels uneasy in his heart with some doubts. He wonders if Vakarova was really the cause of the purple aura, or if it was something else. He also questions how the enemy knew the secret of the small sanctuary in the forest. With a serious look, he realizes there are still many mysteries to be solved. Although nothing is certain, he promises that one day, he'll discover the true identity of the purple aura. After returning from the northern border, days passed quickly for everyone in the group. Savage Eyes prepped his warriors to go north and wipe out the remaining Cassius. The prince joined them, and it took about 15 days to eliminate the entire pack. Back at the Demon King's castle, life goes on as normal in the imposing fortress. Felicia watches her brother and comments that he looks even stronger than before. He smiles and says he's in his growth spurt, and it's natural to get stronger. He then asks how the sanctuary investigation went, and she replies it was so. But the elf says she found something amazing during her investigation at the site. She discovered the magic cast in the sanctuary was from Enkel, one of the 6 ancient dragons. The kid fakes surprise and says that's amazing, so he doesn't raise suspicions. Felicia stares at him suspiciously and asks if he already knew that, but he denies it quickly. The little fairy Greenwind appears and says he looks weird trying to hide it. The scene then changes to the imposing Demon King's castle with its Gothic towers. Upon arrival, Felicia is greeted by a group of elf girls, calling her name excitedly. They greet her affectionately and ask how she is and if she's eaten. Karek watches the scene and comments that nothing has changed around here, and the prince agrees with him. Greenwind asks if it's okay to leave the plains like that, and the kid replies the only ones who change were them. Karek approaches the prince and asks if he did something wrong to attract so much attention. He points to a group of female elves staring at them with hostile and suspicious looks. The MC recognizes them as succubi and wonders if they're from Anastasia's group. Anastasia Necrian, the fourth princess, is the leader of one of the three main factions in the castle. Her faction was the biggest, and even Felicia and her twin brother Sylvan belonged to it. The kid realizes the news about the events in the plains reached her. With a confident smile, he tells Karek to get used to this kind of attention. The scene then shifts to the merit office of the Demon King's castle. Isabella, the office rep, informs that the prince's merit level went up to 10. She also says he now has access to the treasure vault, leaving him excited. With a smile, he asks if they can go spend a little money for the first time. They arrive at the arsenal and are informed they can access the first treasure vault. Iger, the arsenal manager, explains they can buy equipment with cash instead of points. He then lets them explore and choose whatever they want in the place. The MC tells Karek to grab what he needs, and the orc asks if he's serious. The young man says yes, and the orc runs off excited to look for new gear. He grabs a chest armor and comments that it's good and has resistance to elemental attacks. Plus, the armor is light and doesn't get in the way of his beast god fist art. He decides that will be the armor he'll wear under his normal clothes. Next, they go to a blacksmith named Cater to order some new graves. The MC explains he needs special graves since his martial art uses a lot of foot techniques. The blacksmith says the structure is simple and should be ready in 2 days. He suggests making the graves with leather and dragon scales, leaving the kid shocked. The young man asks if he's kidding, since those materials are extremely rare. But the blacksmith reveals materials arrived today in the prince's name, and he plans to use them. Confused, the MC asks how materials arrived in his name without him knowing. The blacksmith then tells him Lord Ishgard personally ordered the delivery of the materials for him. The kid is surprised to hear the name Ishgard, the greatest swordsman and blacksmith in the kingdom. Ishgard is an elder of the Sura race, and the legendary warrior who taught the Demon King himself. Karek wonders why such a legendary figure would help the prince, and the kid agrees. He finds it weird, because in the game he never got support from the Shura side and wonders why. Suddenly, a man arrives running and panting with urgent news for the 9th prince. Karek questions him for running in a panic, and the man bows to catch his breath. He announces there will be an audience ceremony the next morning, leaving the young man surprised. The messenger explains the ceremony will praise the deeds of 3 individuals in the plains. The MC wonders who the 3rd person would be besides him and his sister Felicia. The messenger then reveals that the 2nd prince, Zephyr Ragnarok, has returned to the castle.